Chapter 1. Crash. Please pay the rent together with last month's rent at the end of this month. If you fail to do so, the contract will be terminated. Midnight. In an office building in Pengcheng. Zhang Chen picked up the rent payment receipt and sighed. His parents had an accident last year and were almost dying when the ambulance arrived. His father's last words were to let him run the business well. This technology company. My father Zhang Yukei's wishes to develop the technology to migrate to the moon one day, allowing humans to travel freely between the Earth and the moon. But the couple had just discussed a big cooperation, and when they were out to solicit investment, they had a car accident and could not be rescued. When Zhang Yukei was dying, he asked his son unwillingly whether he could continue to run the company. Run the company well, develop the country with science and technology, and make our dragon country prosper. Father, I will try my best. Zhang Chen gritted his teeth, his eyes were firm, and he promised without saying a word. When he was in college, he was an absolute academic master. He was extremely obsessed with the study of science and technology, even to the point of madness. If it weren't for his father's last wish, he might have gone to work at Long Institute immediately after graduation. Isn't it easy to run a small business? Towards glory. However, after really starting the business, he found that strength alone was not enough. I can no longer sell the rocket models in the warehouse and will probably have to leave the office in disgrace at the end of the month. Buzz. The phone vibrated at this moment, and a message came on the social software. When I opened my phone, I saw a notification that a new friend had been added. There is life. I looked at the profile picture and saw a pretty girl sitting in a Maserati. After adding the friend, several voice messages came over quickly. Mr. Zhang, I found you on Xianyu. I can see that you can make all kinds of aerospace models, and you are a top student majoring in aerospace at Peking University or Tsinghua University. I plan to purchase a large rocket from your company. It needs to be 5 meters high. I need it urgently. The teaching department needs it tomorrow. If you can deliver it, we can discuss the price. A 5-meter high rocket model? Will it be shipped tomorrow? Hearing these somewhat harsh conditions, Zhang Chen became excited instead. This is expedited. Must pay more. The cost is about 200,000 yuan, so it should be around 300,000 yuan. That. 1 million, not a cent less. I'll pay you 2 million and you can send him to school tomorrow. Not only did the pretty girl not bargain, she even gave twice as much. Zhang Chen was stunned. A truly rich woman. The needs of the rich woman are his motivation. Zhang Chen hurriedly asked carefully, do you have any specific requirements for the details? Make the appearance as realistic as possible, and be able to take off, fly as high as possible. Then, 3 pictures were sent. These are the latest rockets launched by several countries in the past 2 years. The Long March 6th carrier rocket of the Dragon country, the large Falcon rocket of the Eagle country, and the Zenit rocket of the Bear country. Zhang Chen swallowed his saliva. He had seen this kind of weapon on the news before. He did run a technology company, but it had always been a small R&D project. A 5-meter rocket? There really is some in the warehouse, but if you want to simulate it, it has to be able to fly. Even if he mobilizes all the resources, it will take a month or so. Not good. Is the fat meat in your mouth going to be lost? At this moment, a mechanical sound came from his head. Host is detected to have an urgent need to manufacture high-tech products. The Yanhuang technology system begins binding, system binding successful. Newcomer gift pack, strengthen the technology inventor LV1. Initial 1000 technology points will be issued. Zhang Chen's mind was immediately flooded with the system and information about the enhanced technology inventor. Enhanced technology inventor strengthen technology, use technology to obtain shock value, and convert it into technology points. Technology points can be exchanged for items in the system, and can also be used for lottery draws. Zhang Chen was overjoyed, and replied that he had a system and was definitely going to make a fortune. Now planetary migration can finally take shape. For a moment, he was full of confidence and courage, and sent a voice message to the other party. Okay, pay a deposit of 1 million, and the rest will be settled after delivery. But there was no answer from the other side, and Zhang Chen felt nervous. Is it too arrogant? 1 minute later. Buzz. Bank card notification, 1 million has arrived. Seeing this money, Zhang Chen was extremely happy. I replied with a received reply and quickly drove to the company warehouse. Pengcheng University of Technology, in a teaching laboratory. Uchiha is teaching students with a lesson plan in hand. She wore gold-rimmed glasses, a white shirt, and a knee-length black skirt. With a smile on his face, he glanced at the students in the classroom. Do you understand what I talked about today, the structure of rockets and the principles of launch? Understood. The classmates responded with laughter. Uchiha saw that it was getting late and gave a final reminder. Tomorrow we will have a practical class on rocket knowledge system, and the school leaders will also attend the class, so please pay attention. I heard that this time's practical class will not only be inspected by academic leaders, but also by foreign guests. Uchiha took great pains to prepare for this inspection. Take the rockets needed for teaching experiments, for example. She paid for them all out of her own pocket. As long as you can seize this opportunity and get the recognition from your leaders, the job evaluation at the end of the year will be a sure thing. But it is definitely not worth spending 2 million just for a promotion. It was also because of the bet she made with her father. If the value does not appreciate within a year, she will have to go home and inherit the $1 trillion fortune. She has been called the daughter of someone since she was a child, and she never admits defeat. She also wants to make others look at her differently through her own struggles. Ring, ring, ring. Get out of class is over. As the bell rang for the end of get out of class, Uchiha also picked up her teaching tools. After being greeted by classmates, I left the classroom. But she still felt uneasy about tomorrow's practical class. Is this technology company I found on Xianyu reliable? After thinking about it, she sent a message to Zhang Chen. Boss Zhang, please deliver it on time tomorrow. In the warehouse. Zhang Chen's mind moved. Suddenly, dozens of round robots floated in front. The round robots opened their colorful eyes and looked towards Zhang Chen. Boost rocket. Zhang Chen gave the order towards a small rocket in the corner of the warehouse. Byte. Enhanced technology inventor activated successfully. Target scanned. Successfully loaded advanced rocket technology. Technology loading completed. Information data is strengthened in all aspects. Liquid methane equivalent calculation completed. Vector propulsion device data verification completed. Rocket recyclability parameters calibration completed. All data corrected successfully. Material scanning successful. Consumes 998 technology points estimated to take half an hour. The small mechanical balls floating in the air were moving in an orderly manner in the warehouse. The rocket, which had already been covered in dust, began to glow blue after being transformed by the mechanical ball. Chapter 2. During the strengthening process, there was only a slight electromagnetic crackling sound, and it was very quiet. The scene before him shocked Zhang Chen greatly. This is definitely black technology. The small rockets, which were only 5 meters high, were gradually transformed into giant rockets about 60 meters high, standing in front of him. Although he had prepared himself mentally, the big guy in front of him still surprised him. Half an hour later. Accompanied by the system prompt sound. Ding dong. Liquid methane rocket enhancement completed. Hearing this, Zhang Chen trembled suddenly. He stared at the giant in front of him with wide eyes, muttering, a 60-meter-long rocket is also okay for giving lectures, right? After a whole night of hard work, it is finally done. With the help of the spherical robot, the rocket is fixed to the heavy truck. For the sake of the customer's privacy, Zhang Chen covered the rocket with a piece of oilcloth. After locking the warehouse, he drove the heavy truck away. Pengcheng Aerospace University. According to the location he received, Zhang Chen drove the truck to the place he had agreed with Uchiha in advance. After shutting down the engine, the rocket was placed upright in the center of the launch site. I double-checked that the rocket was well covered. Only then did I leave feeling very satisfied. I hadn't slept the whole night and was very sleepy. Go straight home. Before going to bed, he sent another message to Uchiha. I made this rocket a little bigger, so I won't charge you any more money. Pengcheng Aerospace University. Space Teaching Launch Site. The sound of March of the Athletes echoed all around. It's almost time for class and students are arriving one after another. Uchiha's students had already known that this was a practical class, so they all came to the launch experiment site to meet up. This launch site is similar to a football field, with a large oval green grass field in the center and a circular covered stand around it. The aerospace major of Pengcheng Aerospace has always been the cradle of aerospace talents in China and even the world. Therefore, this time, not only school leaders will come to observe, but also representatives from some well-known technology giants will come. Damn. Principal Zhang is here too. Someone from the Long Science Institute has come, too. Mr. Wang is the special consultant for the Institute of Science. The students who arrived early, after entering the venue. After finding their respective seats and eating breakfast in their hands, they kept wondering how many big guys would come to today's practical class. Soon. A beautiful teacher came over with a lesson plan in hand and dressed in a proper professional attire. Hello, teacher. Uchiha responded with a smile and the classmates greeted each other. Today she is the protagonist. As long as there is practical class, rocket theory can be taught successfully. She will definitely win the bet with her dad. Now all that's missing is the rocket. She looked around, but there was no sign of her custom rocket except for a large thing wrapped in oilcloth in the center of the field. The time is almost up and there are no props yet. Could that guy be a liar? Just as she was about to urge him, she discovered that Zhang Chen had sent her a message before. The rocket is a bit too big. It's more than 6 or 7 meters. It doesn't matter if it's a little older, after all, time is really tight. Uchiha felt relieved. As long as the stuff is there, it should be on the way, right? At this time, a woman's sarcastic voice came from behind. Hey, Mr. Lu, you have to work hard in the practical class, otherwise no one will be able to compete with me in the advanced selection at the end of the year. Uchiha was slightly stunned. Turning around, it was Wang Qiqi. Not far away, school leaders and several researchers from the space agency also came over. Uchiha's face darkened and she asked coldly, why are you here? Wang Qiqi was not angry and replied with a smile, I am also a teacher, why can't I come? I came here on purpose to take your class. I wanted to see for myself how you teach this class. But I think you'd better give up the Advanced Person of the Year award sooner rather than later. There's only one spot left, and it's definitely mine. Uchiha frowned slightly, looking very unhappy. Please don't disturb my class. Wang Qiqi sneered, do I still need to bother you? I checked the useless company you hired on Xianyu. They have no strength at all. You'd better fend for yourself. You investigated me. Lu Xia was immediately furious. In order to compete with her, Wang Qiqui shamelessly used some unknown means to snoop into her privacy. So what if I investigate you? Are you going to bite me? Wang Qiqui looked indifferent. At this time, a group of old men with grey hair came forward. The leader was none other than the president of Pengcheng Aerospace University, Zhang Tianfeng. He walked up and introduced himself with a smile on his face. This is our school's special teacher, Lu Xia, who has strong teaching ability in aerospace. Teacher Lu, these two are experts in aerospace technology from our long country. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. The students around were extremely shocked. Have all the frontline experts been invited over? These people are all the heroes of Dragon Country's aerospace industry. A person who can only be found on the news. This time, the school's emphasis on practical classes has really exceeded everyone's expectations. Zhang Tianfeng glanced at the venue. There was only a big guy several dozen meters high. Apart from this thing, there is nothing else. I couldn't help but feel confused. Is this construction waste left over from the launch site? I'll have to report this to the Academic Affairs Office when I get back. But it doesn't matter, the most important thing now is this practical class. Teacher Lu, what's going on? Where are the teaching props? As soon as Principal Zhang said this, everyone looked at Lu Xia. Today's launch site is her stage. But what about the rockets now? Lu Xia was also confused. She had just sent several messages to Zhang Chen, but had not received a reply yet. Everyone's gaze made her ears turn red and she really wanted to hide herself. Wang Qiqui saw something and said with a smile, Teacher Lu, what's going on? If you're not ready, just tell the truth and don't waste everyone's time. The leaders and scientists are here. Their time is precious. Do you have the nerve to waste it? This statement caused a lot of discussion among people. Zhang Tianfeng frowned and asked carefully, Teacher Lu, is there any problem? Tell us and we can work together to find a solution. There are no props in class, how can this be explained? For a moment, Lu Xia felt very heavy and clenched her hands. BD Zhang Chen actually dared to lie to her. She was really screwed. I'll call the police later, this guy will definitely be held responsible. At this time, the social software received the message. Look down. Sister, how did I lie to you? Isn't that thing wrapped in oilcloth in the center of the field a rocket? You can't see it's over 60 meters, right? I'm telling you, you can't bargain after the goods are sold. Lu Xia suddenly raised her head and looked at the big guy in front of her. Call. She took a deep breath. That thing wrapped in oilcloth is actually a rocket? More than 60 meters? Is this a bit bigger? Even the rockets that Dragon Country is currently equipped with are no more than this. Chapter 3. Lu Xia couldn't believe it, but the practical class was about to begin and she couldn't hesitate. Restraining her surprise, she pointed to the big thing in the center of the venue. There, in the center of the venue, is today's teaching model. Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes over. There was a cylinder wrapped in oilcloth, standing majestically in the center of the venue. Suddenly, everyone was shocked. This is actually a teaching rocket. Oh my god, this is too exaggerated. This model is dozens of meters long. It's really amazing. The school leaders and researchers from Long Institute were also very excited. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen looked at each other, both very curious. Streamlined design, no nut connection, perfect proportions. All signs indicate that the rocket is exquisitely crafted. Especially Zhang Tianfeng, his face was beaming. Lu Xia is in the spotlight, which is also an honor for the school. Wang Qiqui was so angry that her teeth were itching. According to her investigation, the company Lu Xia found was completely second-rate. What good model can be made from this kind of stuff? But today's teaching rockets are so huge. Could it be that the investigation was wrong? But when she thought about it carefully, she realized that the level of technology is not just about size. This rocket might be just a useless thing that looks good. Thinking of this, she relaxed and sneered. Teacher Li, if the teaching aids have arrived, then let's get started. Everyone is waiting for you. She was eager to see the embarrassed look of this female teacher who was competing with her for the year-end advanced award. Teacher Lu, you have to introduce your masterpiece this time. Principal Zhang Tianfeng, with a smile on his face, walked towards the center of the venue first. The whole crowd was in harmony. Lu Xia felt a little unsure, but she had no choice but to follow. What can be accomplished in just one day? She could even imagine that when the oilcloth was lifted, it would reveal something rough and everyone would be greatly disappointed. Soon, a group of people arrived in front of the rocket. Open it and let everyone see it. Wang Qiqui looked at Lu Xia with gloating eyes and urged her. Yes, take a look. The teachers and students were all very excited and couldn't wait to see the prop with their own eyes. Xia, let's start. Don't be nervous. Zhang Tianfeng thought Lu Xia felt a little uneasy because of the large occasion, so he said something to comfort her. Lu Xia's heart was in turmoil and she gritted her teeth. There is no other way. Lift up a corner of the oilcloth and pull hard. Wow. The tarp slid off completely. Then, a rocket with a metallic luster appeared, shining in the sun, beautiful and heavy. The huge rocket made everyone feel a strong sense of oppression. Asphyxia. For a moment, the air around seemed to condense. The huge rocket looks majestic and powerful, and there is not even any sign of splicing. This giant in front of us is comparable to the real rockets currently in service in Longguo. Public sentiment surges. It seemed as if I saw the next moment, the rocket soared into the sky and soared into the sky. How is this possible? Wang Qiuqi's pupils trembled, she staggered and almost fell, and she looked a little dazed. Students also rushed over and looked at the big rocket in surprise. They were all dumbfounded, their faces filled with horror. Oh my god, this is so cool. Oh my god, is there any difference between this and a real rocket? I will definitely not miss any of Mr. Liu's practical classes in the future. Everyone at the launch site was shocked by this rocket. But at this time, both Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen looked a little solemn. The layman watches the excitement, but the expert sees the details. Just as everyone was still amazed at how realistic the rocket was, the two aerospace masters noticed something was wrong. This rocket in front of them looks like a real guy. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen came out, and the former asked tentatively, Teacher Lu, where did this rocket come from? The two aviation giants had spoken, and everyone fell silent. They were also very curious about what kind of team could build such an amazing rocket. Judging from the materials and craftsmanship, it is definitely not simple. The few people who knew Lu Xia's situation were already speculating in their hearts, could it be that she used her family's connections? This is the company I found on Xianyu. The boss is called Zhang Chen, and I have never heard of him before. Lu Xia blinked her big eyes and explained to everyone. Oh, I see. This is equivalent to saying nothing. Mr. Wang still felt that this needed to be kept secret, and when Lu Xia evaded him, he just agreed casually. Then let me ask another question, is this rocket really able to fly? Mr. Wang thought about it and expressed the questions in many people's minds. It should be okay. Lu Xia was not sure either. But she had agreed with Zhang Chen before, so it would definitely be able to fly for a while. But now that rockets are so big, if they need to be propelled, how much fuel and powerful technology will be needed? This is a small company that I randomly found on Xianyu. Can it do this? She was unsure. However, when Lu Xia confirmed the answer, everyone became excited instantly. Then start firing. Let it fly. Principal Zhang also patted Lu Xia on the shoulder and said with a smile, if it can take off, let's launch it. Only then did Wang Qiuqi come to her senses and steady herself. When she heard that the rocket could actually be launched, she suddenly became anxious. How is this possible? This girl must be playing tricks. If the rocket fails to launch, she will be embarrassed. Teacher Lu, then you should launch the rocket quickly. Everyone is waiting for it. Wang Qiuqi urged. She wanted to see how proud this little girl would be in the future. Lu Xia is in a difficult situation. Emission? How to launch this? You can't just say it with your mouth. Just when Lu Xia was at a loss as to what to do in the face of everyone's expectations, the phone dinged and a reminder came. It was a message from Zhang Chen, which contained an app installation package. After installing this software and connecting it to the rocket, you can control the rocket launch. Lu Xia was overjoyed and quickly downloaded the installation package and clicked to install. Soon, the installation was successful. Open the app. A miniature rocket appeared on the page. Various corresponding data are also written on the side. Then, a prompt appeared on the page. Rocket detected, connected. Click to connect. Next second. Buzz, ZZ. A burst of transparent water sprayed out around the rocket, and 4 mechanical anchors landed under the rocket and were firmly embedded in the ground. Bang. 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 At the ejection port of the thruster, eject a few caps. Then, a mechanical prompt sound was heard from the body of the rocket. Signal connection successful. Authorization confirmed successfully. Rocket self-test successful. Liquid methane status detection successful. Super engine started successfully. Self-inspection of Yanhuang Glory number 1 was successful. Waiting for launch. Chapter 4. Suddenly, a faint blue light appeared on the surface of the rocket. Everyone clearly felt that an electromagnetic energy was activated. Lu Xia's beautiful eyes widened with excitement and her scalp went numb. Is it really connected? Activated successfully. Everyone rushed over one after another and looked up at the huge rocket in front of them. Oh my god, this is really eye-opening. It's controlled by a mobile phone? It's too advanced. So cool. And it can be controlled by voice. Fire it and see. There were hundreds of teachers and students, all of them were excited. The atmosphere at the launch site was immediately ignited. Originally Lu Xia was also hesitant. But now that we are here, there is no turning back. Emission. Following Lu Xia's instructions, the rocket sounded the prompt again. All data indicators passed the test. Notice. 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 Please evacuate the surrounding people. The tail end of the rocket began to ignite. Then, the ground began to tremble. Wang Lao realized the danger and shouted, everyone, retreat to the outer perimeter of the launch site and get away from the rocket, shudder. Everyone turned around and left as quickly as possible. I felt a deep fear and didn't dare to stay for a moment. Only Wang Qiuqi was left standing in a daze, unable to believe it. She had been sarcastic before, and now she was running away, wouldn't that be a slap in her face? At this time, the rocket also started counting down. 10. 9. 8. Everyone was moving away without stopping, and some had already reached the outskirts of the venue. Wang Qiuqi also started to panic. Grit your teeth and run. Don't risk your life. She hurried on her high heels and even sprained her ankle due to her anxiety. The rocket countdown has also entered the final stage. 3. 2. 1. Boom. With ignition. Dust is flying. A burst of energy blasted out from behind the rocket, and blue flames roared. Wang Qiqi was immediately sprayed black all over. He was blown away by the airwave and fell to the ground in a mess. People who run slowly can also clearly feel the airwave. Those on the periphery were all avoiding the airwaves. Soon. The surroundings calmed down. The person who reached the edge of the venue first saw the scene gradually become clearer. With the help of the tail jet, the rocket has begun to slowly rise into the air. Everyone watched with bated breath, all very excited. Staring intently at the center of the venue. Damn, it really can fly. Such a huge rocket can rise high. This thruster is so amazing. This practical class really makes me want to kneel down. The students cheered excitedly. Which teenager doesn't have a dream of space travel? Seeing the rocket take off now is really exciting. The teachers were also excited and proud to have such colleagues. Principal Zhang Tianfang nodded repeatedly, very satisfied. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were amazed. Others may not understand, but they both know very well how difficult it is to make a rocket. They became more and more curious about the rocket's manufacturer. When did such a powerful manufacturer appear among the people? The two elders looked in the same direction at the same time. Lu Xia clutched her phone tightly and panted, luckily I ran fast. She never imagined that such a huge rocket could actually fly. The $2 million was well worth it. Soon after, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen also came over, very curious. Teacher Lu, is this rocket really just a teaching model? It's indistinguishable from the real thing. When I bought it, it was really just a model. Lu Xia answered truthfully. Buzz. It seems to be intended to refute the model. The rocket in the center of the field, the vector thruster suddenly emitted a more violent buzzing sound. The flame at the end also changed from blue to deep purple. It is also different from the previous slow climb. The rocket suddenly accelerated. Rapid rise. A large gap was also torn in the clouds. At the launch site, the crowd cheered for a long time and applauded loudly. They all took out their mobile phones to take pictures and record this moment. Everyone was shocked and got goosebumps. I was stunned, as if I was dreaming. Old Wang looked up at the rocket in the sky with trembling eyes and exclaimed, "Oh my god, you said this is a model. Actually, this is really a model rocket." Lu Xia smiled bitterly. She knew how much a real rocket was worth. How could it be just 2 million? But now, the model seems to be as good as the current rockets in every aspect, and even seems to be stronger. It was a pleasant surprise. No, if it's just a model, it won't last long. If we run out of fuel in the middle and fall down, it will be very dangerous. Seeing Lu Xia so sure, Mr. Wang thought of something, his face changed, and he spoke anxiously. At this time, Wang Qiqi, who was in a state of disgrace, also climbed up. She held her waist and said angrily, "It's so dangerous. If anything unexpected happens during this practical class because of you, our school will be finished. Not only will you not be awarded the year-end award, but the school will also expel you. Can't you just admit defeat? Why do you have to fight with me? You just don't know your own limits." The people nearby looked over. Thinking about possible accidents that might happen to the rocket, everyone is a little worried. Zhang Tianfang also frowned and asked, "Can we pause now?" "I'm afraid not." Lu Xia was helpless. Even if it is a real rocket, it doesn't have the ability to pause. The principal is really an amateur. She subconsciously glanced at her phone. In the software, the data that was originally stopped has started to move. Especially energy. Energy, liquid oxygen and methane current remaining, 99.99% current speed, Mach 2 current status, continuously accelerating. Liquid oxygen and methane. She was stunned. As a teacher, she knows how powerful liquid oxygen and methane are. Compared with fuel, it is more powerful and more durable. Say it again, is it really liquid oxygen and methane? Mr. Wang opened his eyes wide, dumbfounded, and somewhat unbelievable. This material is still in the experimental stage even at the Long Institute. Yes, take a look. This is the software the production company sent me. It shows the status. Lu Xia handed her cell phone to Mr. Wang. The above is a scene of a rocket taking off. On the screen, it was the rocket's data. Energy, liquid oxygen and methane. It really is liquid oxygen and methane. Mr. Wang was so excited that his hands were shaking. He thought of the color of the flame that came out of the tail of the rocket. Plus the data on the software now, pupil earthquake. This means that the level of this manufacturing company is actually higher than that of Long Institute. Mr. Chen also sighed, it's really amazing. He also wanted to get closer and see the data. Suddenly, I saw that the speed of the rocket was increasing. Chapter 5. Mach 2.2 Mach 2.3 Mach 2.4 This means, not only does it have the most advanced fuel, it also has a powerful propulsion device. He was extremely excited and said to Mr. Wang excitedly, "We must find the manufacturer of this rocket." Mr. Wang also nodded. The most important thing now is to observe the rocket data well to prevent any accidents. We should go back to the Dragon Academy and monitor the rocket to prevent any accidents. Okay, without further ado, it would be best if Teacher Lu could come with us. Even if there is enough fuel, there will be a moment when it runs out. We have to use the best weather equipment in the hospital to observe and take measures in advance. Hearing this, Lu Xia hesitated. This experimental class is of vital importance to her and is related to her entire teaching career. If I leave now, I might have to go back to inherit the family property. She immediately looked at the principal for help. Surprisingly, I got a positive answer. Zhang Tianfang smiled and waved his hand, you can go with me. The influence you brought to the school this time has taken you one step further in your evaluation. Hearing this, Lu Xia was overjoyed. Without saying a word, he got into the car parked at the school gate with Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen and left. A violent sonic boom appeared above the school. Shot into the clouds. The people in the school and passers-by were all attracted by the rocket. Some people outside the school quickly stopped their cars and started to watch. Oh my god, what's going on? A rocket was launched in the school. Oh my god, this is amazing. Oh my god. The rocket took off quickly, rising higher and higher. Eventually disappeared from everyone's sight. The story began to spread quickly. People kept posting videos and pictures of rocket launches on various social media platforms. Soon, tens of thousands of people saw it. The well-developed internet has made this matter a hot topic among the public. All major media outlets followed suit. Moments, family, look, I passed by Pengcheng Aerospace University today, and they were actually launching a rocket. Vlogger, on August 31, 2023, a rocket was launched from Pengcheng Aerospace University. I saw it with my own eyes. Slang, breaking news. Pengcheng Aerospace University was fooled, a UFO was spotted, suspected to be a missile. Fox, what happened in college? Does it affect our lives? Post the video. Netizens also started discussing it hotly. Oh my god. Is that really Pengcheng Aerospace University, not Long Institute? Are universities so awesome now? They can launch rockets just by saying so. I have a reasonable suspicion that this is a P video, but I have no evidence. One netizen spat, this video is definitely not real. Although technology has advanced, it has not yet reached the point where schools can independently develop rockets. Some netizens immediately expressed their dissent, saying, I was at the scene and saw it with my own eyes. More and more netizens also spoke up, yes, I live nearby, and I also saw the Pengcheng Aerospace University, and there was a rocket rising inside. Some netizens who opposed the idea immediately disagreed, saying, they already have a launch center, which is used for experiments. Do you really think that is a rocket, not a model? These words made some people who saw it with their own eyes doubt it. At this time, a netizen named Xiao Zuj is obviously very knowledgeable about aerospace knowledge. He immediately appeared and gave everyone a brief introduction to the differences between model rockets and real rockets. The rocket in the video, no matter its size, acceleration, or flame color, is something that ordinary models cannot achieve. Especially at the moment it rushed into the clouds, it accelerated suddenly and soared into the sky. Everyone finally understood and felt that little Zuj's popular science was correct. However, the netizens who had insisted that it was a model before were even more dissatisfied after hearing this, and immediately released it in anger. If this were a real rocket, I would stand upside down and drink my urine. But if it's fake, many netizens think it makes sense. Normally, this should be the answer. Otherwise, I can't make such a big bet. But what no one expected was that little Zuj was not afraid at all. I immediately replied, if it's fake, I will also drink Coke while standing upside down. This bet also aroused the excitement of netizens. They also split into two camps, paying attention to the two and waiting for the follow-up. Whether it's true or not, it will be fun to watch. The other side. Some small bloggers who got the information started editing videos. A video of the rocket launch was immediately released. Then in high spirits, accompanied by exciting text and audio. The Dragon Country is mighty. Our Pengcheng Aerospace University is mighty. The launch was successful. I saw it with my own eyes, it was amazing. The account immediately attracted a large amount of traffic and the video became popular. Military camp stationed in Pengcheng. The Information Security Department was in an uproar. The alarm sounded suddenly and everyone was startled. Just now, the air defense soldiers reported that an unidentified flying object appeared in the sky above Pengcheng. Report. The UFO is still climbing in altitude. The officer's voice trembled slightly as he turned around and reported. A middle-aged man with a uniform covered with medals was walking back and forth with a frown on his face. From time to time, I looked at the surveillance screen and saw the light flashing continuously. This is his jurisdiction. But nothing can go wrong. But this sudden surveillance of an unknown object made everyone's heart hang in the balance. Can you find out which unit it belongs to? Zhao Weiguo stopped and asked seriously. Report. Chief, it's not in our national database, and we have relevant records. After thinking about it, Guan Jian decided to report the results of his investigation to Zhao Weiguo. In China, if there is a launch plan, data must be entered in advance. Even if it is a launch exercise, it is necessary. Zhao Weiguo frowned, his mind full of questions. No record. Could it be the people who did it? Can you roughly determine the launch location? The officer agreed, okay, I'll give it a try. Then, operate it on the computer. Dragon Country's air surveillance can monitor the historical trajectory in real time in the year of the trigger. According to the trajectory, we can roughly guess the launch location. The earlier you start, the more accurate you will be. Snap. After entering the data, a place surrounded by a red circle appeared on the map on the monitor. Report. The launch area is approximately around Pengcheng University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Zhao Weiguo was stunned for a moment, then became a little angry. Who can launch a rocket in college? There are residential areas next to this. Why don't we ask Pengcheng Academy of Science? But the answer I got was also negative. Zhao Weiguo had many doubts in his mind. What kind of force caused such a big commotion? Could it be a spy? If they were allowed to cause trouble in Pengcheng, it would be bad. Chapter 6. Putting out the burning cigarette in his hand, Zhao Weiguo used a military phone with encrypted signals to dial a mysterious number. Hello, comrade. I am Zhao Weiguo, the chief of Pengcheng Air Defense District. This is an emergency. Please quickly transfer me to the office of the president of Long Academy. Office of the president of Pengcheng Dragon Science Institute. A middle-aged man with glasses on his nose and a kind look was looking down at some important document. It wasn't until the phone in front of him rang that his attention was drawn to it. President Su, I'm Zhao Weiguo. An urgent voice came from the other end of the phone. Su Zheng was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and couldn't help asking. Xiao Zhao? You actually contacted me one day. The two were transferred to Pengcheng in the same year. They have developed a unique understanding and deep feelings in their work. It's just because both parties have their own tasks, and they will never contact each other unless it is an important moment. After several inquiries about his well-being, Zhao Weiguo could no longer hold back and said seriously. President Su, a big thing happened in Pengcheng today, and the situation is urgent. Before that, I have something very important to confirm with you. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, Su Zheng couldn't help but sit up straight. What's the matter? Zhao Weiguo's gaze subconsciously turned to the surveillance footage, and when he saw the light speed suddenly increase, his brows furrowed even more tightly. If he was asked to describe it for a moment, he wouldn't even know where to start. After reorganizing his words in his mind, he spoke again. Just now, our air defense soldiers detected an unidentified flying object over Pengcheng. After inspection, it was found that it did not belong to any unit. Most importantly, there is no relevant record in the database. After he finished speaking, Zhao Weiguo noticed a noticeable silence on the other end of the line, so he continued. I'm calling you this time to ask you if the Long Institute knows about this matter. At the desk, Su Zheng's expression suddenly became serious after hearing these words. He shook his head. No, could it be civilians? Can you find out the exact range where the flying object was launched? Near Pengcheng Aerospace University. Hearing this, Su Zheng stood up suddenly. Are you kidding me? How can you launch a rocket there? Although the aerospace industry of Pengcheng Aerospace University is the cradle of aerospace talents in Longwo and even the world, it makes Su Zheng believe that they can build rockets and fly within the inspection range of air defense troops. He absolutely would not believe it, and he absolutely dared not believe it. Zhao Weiguo opened his mouth to explain when he heard a knock on the door. Report. Come in. A researcher from Yulong Academy of Sciences said, President, Elder Wang and Elder Chen are here. They said they have something important to report. Then let them in. The researcher hesitated for a moment, looking a little embarrassed. He couldn't tell the dean that Elder Wang and Elder Huang had brought outsiders directly into the watchtower. Seeing that the other party did not respond for a long time, Su Zheng frowned and said in a serious tone, What are you wasting time on? Is there anything you can't say? Yes. Elder Wang and Elder Chen have entered the watchtower with a female comrade. Bang. Take me there quickly. In a hurry, Su Zheng actually hung up the receiver in his hand and hung up the call with Zhao Weiguo. But he doesn't have time to take care of these things now. After all, in addition to the top aerospace observation equipment, the observation tower of the Dragon Science Institute also contains a lot of confidential documents. Elder Wang and Elder Chen are from the Long Academy, so it's fine for them to go in, but bringing outsiders in is absolutely not allowed. Realizing that the call was hung up, Zhao Weiguo stared at the receiver in his hand in silence for a while. After asking around for a long time, it turns out they don't know anything. This was a dilemma, and I didn't know what to do for a moment. After entering Long Institute, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen took Lu Xia all the way to the watchtower. This is the best equipment for the Long Institute to monitor aerospace. Teacher Lu, we also need your mobile phone. Okay, no problem. At this moment, Lu Xia prayed in her heart that nothing would go wrong. If the rocket, which was more than 60 meters high, fell from the sky, it would definitely cause considerable harm. By then, she would be in big trouble. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were so excited that they naturally didn't notice Lu Xia's reaction beside them. He took Lu Xia's phone with excitement, and while observing the rocket rising higher, he looked back at the relevant data displayed on the phone. Especially the ever-increasing speed, which has now reached Mach 2.7. What is the concept? Even in front of the Dragon country's active rockets, it is comparable to them, not to mention that the fuel of this rocket is liquid nitrogen and methane. The energy generated by burning liquid nitrogen and methane will be greater and last longer than the rocket fuel they are used to. Longwo is always looking forward to the successful realization of the feat of applying liquid nitrogen and methane to aerospace, and is looking forward to it even more. Of course, in terms of related research, Longwo's proposal is only at the theoretical level. After some observations by Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen, they came to a conclusion that was enough to shock the entire aerospace community. It's not a model rocket at all. It's a real rocket. Hearing this, Lu Xia was stunned. To say that I was not surprised would be a lie, especially after receiving responses from two aerospace giants on the spot. She just placed an order for a rocket model with Zhang Chen's company. How come the model turned into a real rocket? I never thought that I would be able to witness the application of liquid nitrogen and methane in aerospace. Just as Mr. Wang finished his sigh, there was a knock at the door. He was kicked open by someone from outside. Immediately afterwards, a team of guards rushed in from outside with guns in hand. 3 people, including Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen, were surrounded at the observation equipment. What are you doing? Are you all trying to rebel? Or do you not even recognize us 2 old guys? Old Chen stood in the front, angrily scolding the guards in front of him, and his mighty power suddenly emanated from his body. Mr. Wang turned around and handed the phone to Uchiha, also standing in front. It's not them who are rebelling, it's you. The guards made way for them and Su Zheng walked towards the 3 men. His sharp gaze lingered between the 3 people, finally landing on Uchiha. You 2 elders are both important people in the Dragon Academy. Don't you know the rules of the Dragon Academy? Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen blushed and forgot about the matter in their anxiety. But when they thought of their discovery, they became excited again. Dean, we have made a major discovery and are preparing to report it to you. Mr. Chen also stepped forward to explain. Today we are at Pengcheng Aerospace University. Chapter 7. Su Zheng raised his hand and stopped the other party from speaking. Don't do that to me. I just want to ask you if you still remember the rules of the Dragon Academy. Originally, he wanted to teach Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen a lesson, but when he arrived at the place Mr. Chen mentioned, he was dumbfounded. Standing there, dumbfounded. His mouth trembled slightly, and it took him a long time to find his voice. Where were you just now? Chen Lao Ki raised his head suddenly. Pengcheng Aerospace University. After hearing it clearly, Su Zheng was slightly stunned. As the elders of Long Academy, it is impossible for Elder Wang and Elder Chen not to know the rules of Long Academy. They must have a special reason for doing this. Recalling what Zhao Weijuo had said to him when he was connected to him just now, Su Zheng suddenly had a strong premonition in his mind. Even my heartbeat quickened dramatically. Hold your breath and wait for Mr. Chen's response. Dean, this is what happened. With the joint explanation by Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen, and Lu Xia's testimony, they recounted the entire process from participating in the practical class at Pengcheng Aerospace University to the successful launch of the rocket model. We suspected at first that the rocket was real, but when it was launched, we were sure of it. Not only that, the manufacturer even accidentally developed a rocket that was powered by liquid nitrogen and methane. This was an accident, and it was the last act of Mr. Wang as a senior aerospace consultant of Long Academy. Although the facts were in front of him, he still found it hard to believe that such technology was created by civilians. Hiding the emotion between his brows, Mr. Wang turned his head and glanced at the screen of the phone in Lu Xia's hand. Current remaining, 99.64%. If it weren't for the liquid nitrogen and methane, the battery life wouldn't be so long. This is simply unprecedented and horrifying. What? Liquid nitrogen and methane. Even Su Zheng, who was usually calm and composed, became so excited that his face flushed and he almost jumped up after hearing the news. What you said is true. Before he could utter any question, Mr. Chen took Lu Xia's phone and faced Su Zheng with the screen. My eyes unconsciously focused on the screen. Energy, liquid nitrogen and methane current remaining, 99.64% current speed, Mach 3 current speed, continuous acceleration. Looking at the data displayed above, Su Zheng had to say that he was shocked. The temperature was over 30 degrees, but he felt a chill down his spine. Holding a mobile phone in hand, Su Zheng's excitement was beyond words, and he could hardly suppress it, so he could only pace back and forth on the spot. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen exchanged glances and then looked back at Lu Xia. Sure enough, I saw the girl hiding behind, cowering a little. He coughed lightly and signaled to Su Zheng. Dean, now that the truth is out, can these be used? Old Chen pointed his finger at the muzzle of the gun in front of him, his meaning was obvious. Su Zheng reacted immediately and waved his hand. You retreat first. Yes. Dean. Only after the guards left with their guns did Lu Xi relax a little. Although she was wealthy and had seen a lot of the world, this was the first time in her life that she had been under so many guns for such a long time. To say I'm not afraid would be a lie. After thinking for a while, Su Zheng looked at Lu Xia again. Teacher Lu, could you please give us the contact information of Mr. Zhang that you mentioned? Compared with his seriousness just now, Lu Xia was a little uncomfortable with Su Zheng's current kind appearance. She blinked her eyes and was stunned for a few seconds. I think this is also an opportunity. After all, he is the president of Long Academy. Mr. Zhang shouldn't mind me leaking his information. He pointed at the phone in Su Zheng's hand, and the latter understood and quickly returned it to him. Lu Xia performed a simple operation and found information about Zhang Chen's technology company and himself on Xianyu in a few seconds. He handed it to Su Zheng, and then he remembered that Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen called him Dean, so he said, Dean, this is Mr. Jiang's contact information. Hearing the sound, not only Su Zheng, but even old Wang and old Chen came over with their eyes wide open. This is the contact information of a genius who can develop liquid nitrogen and methane energy, almost surpassing the country's rocket research and development capabilities. The old guys in the Dragon Science Institute have worked hard to research and update Dragon's rocket technology. It's absolutely impossible to say that I'm not moved. Hey, Mr. Chen, this is such a big place, why are you squeezing me? SHH. Don't talk. When the dean turned around, I just saw a string of numbers. Don't interrupt me. I can still remember something. On the other side, inside the Pengcheng office building, Zhang Chen lay on the sofa and used half of the 1 million deposit he had received last night to pay the rent that was demanded. Now that I am debt-free, I feel relieved. Thinking back to the enhanced technological inventor system that was suddenly bound to him, he had seen related situations in novels. Although Zhang Chen didn't know why this system would find him. But with the help of this inventor system, he was able to solve the urgent problem. Isn't this a powerful cheat for him? In addition, he himself is an absolute top student, especially interested in scientific and technological research. If he hadn't wanted to inherit this family business, he would have already joined the Dragon Academy. Before owning the system, he was still worried about various company operation issues, but now the situation is completely different. He not only has strength, but also skills. Until now, Zhang Chen's mind was still filled with the image of dozens of round robots emitting colorful lights and working together to strengthen and transform the rocket. That technique, that method. And it can be said to be the most advanced in the entire Dragon country, and even in the entire world. With the technology, there is no need to worry about other aspects, especially the demand for funds. Last night's order is a good example. Click. Zhang Chen, who was just about to take a short break, heard a noise as soon as he closed his eyes. It wasn't obvious at first, and he couldn't find the source of the sound. Until, a piece of dust fell from somewhere and covered Zhang Chen's face. He casually swept it across his face, pa. When I looked up, I found that the original ceiling was not very stable, and the chandelier was shaky. Zhang Chen felt like he might fall down at any time. I turned around and looked around, and couldn't help but sigh. Yes, now after my parents passed away, all the employees of my technology company have resigned one after another, and now I am the only one left alone. I stood up helplessly, feeling a sense of emotion. Forget it. Before this small company rises, I'll just have to be self-reliant. Detecting the host's urgent need for assistance, the Yanhuang technology system begins to allocate. Chapter 8. The system is allocating. Please do not transfer. Please do not transfer. Allocation successful. The high-tech simulation robot butler assistant has been sent to the host's backpack. Please check it in time and awaken the assistant to bind. Zhang Chen hadn't even stood up yet, and even just finished speaking. The system's related prompt sound has already appeared in my mind. In the novels I've read before, the system also took the protagonist on a wild ride, but I've never seen a system as smart as the one I have. It can even automatically sense the host's needs. For a moment, Zhang Chen was ecstatic and checked the relevant equipment in his backpack without hesitation. A translucent light blue page suddenly appeared in front of me. The one that was automatically pinned to the top was the assistant that the system had just assigned to him. After Void clicked on the assistant package, a small pop-up window popped up directly. Host, do you choose to awaken the high-tech simulation machine butler assistant? Yes. Zhang Chen's response was so straightforward. With a high-tech housekeeper assistant by his side, the most complicated company management problems are solved, and he can even be a hands-off boss who is only responsible for counting money. When he thought of this, he was full of confidence. This is definitely a way to make a fortune. Then, Zhang Chen saw with his own eyes that the color of the assistant bag gradually changed from grey to blue gold. Just listen to one sentence. Loading completed. Butler assistant awakens. Suddenly, without Zhang Chen being prepared, an assistant who was almost as tall as himself suddenly appeared in front of him. The appearance is so exquisite that it is impeccable. Zhang Chen stood up and walked around his assistant a few times. He stroked his chin with one hand. This system is good. The robot assistants are so sophisticated. Hello, Master. I am the first generation housekeeper assistant of the Yanhuang technology system, codenamed 01. You can change it yourself. Zhang Chen, who was observing the assistant robot, never expected that the robot assistant would actually speak directly. He was so scared that he took 2 steps back. He looked the robot up and down, his mind going blank. Just call 01. Yes. Assistant 01 will officially become the Master's assistant from September 2, 2023. The Master. Before robot assistant 01 could finish her words, Zhang Chen raised his hand and interrupted her. Stop. Don't call me Master anymore. Call me Mr. Zhang. Yes. Zhang Chen nodded, turned around and sat back on the sofa, crossing his legs as he sat down. Why don't you show me your strength? The next second, Zhang Chen saw with his own eyes that 01 accepted the task he had conveyed. Her eyes flickered with a faint light, then, 01 began to scan the office building. Zhang Chen was a little stunned, and couldn't help but follow behind. Watching 01 quickly scanning the surroundings, he sighed in a low voice, oh my god. This is simply a bug scanner. In less than a minute, 01 returning to Zhang Chen, the improvement plan for the company's interior decoration and structure has been sent to Mr. Jiang's mobile phone. Mr. Zhang only needs to sign his name on it, and the relevant order will be automatically paid. Zhang Chen was stunned for a while, the bulge in his throat rolled up and down subconsciously, and he quickly picked up the phone on the table. My finger slides quickly across the screen. For a moment, Zhang Chen stared at the flawless plan, stunned. What kind of beating is this? 01 did everything he wanted in a minute, and I was directly sent flying. After checking the improvement plan, I scrolled to the end of the page. A signature box popped up directly, and Zhang Chen signed his cursive signature without thinking. Order transaction completed. Buzz buzz buzz. As Zhang Chen felt the vibration in his palm, he saw the bank card transaction information pop up at the top. Have you hit rock bottom? You've spent all your savings just to revamp your company. He couldn't help but gasp. 01 Assistant is indeed the most advanced high-tech robot housekeeper assistant in the world. It can even know your bank card password. But then I thought, these all require my own nod and signature. Besides, there is still 1 million yuan that has not been deposited into the account. Don't panic, don't rush. I took a deep breath and finally felt a little more calm. As soon as his butt touched the sofa, his cell phone rang. Zhang Chen subconsciously thought that the balance of the Ferrari-buying rich lady had arrived, and his spirits trembled. My eyes lit up. But when I really looked at it carefully, I found that it was a friend request from Xianyu. He was greatly disappointed, curled his lips, and clicked in lightly. The page is loaded. The avatar for the request to add oneself as a friend is a pattern with the words technologically powerful country on it. Could it be possible that he is alive again? But now he only has 2 technology points left. Indiana the system. No business can be done. Or a competitor of Pengcheng. Out of curiosity, Zhang Chen accepted the other party's friend request. A few messages came over there very quickly. Hello, Mr. Zhang. I'm Su Zheng, the president of Pengcheng Dragon Academy. I want to talk to you about something. Do you have time? Of course, if it's convenient for you, I can also visit your company in person. I have something urgent to ask for confirmation. Seeing the messages popping up one after another in front of him, Zhang Chen quickly browsed through them all. Pengcheng Dragon Academy? Still the dean? If this is the dean, I'm also the chairman of the alliance. Zhang Chen casually threw the phone in his hand onto the sofa. He turned around and fell on the sofa. He was still mumbling, how could such a good thing find me? Long Academy Observation Tower. Su Zheng, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen stared at the screens of their mobile phones for most of the day. But after the other party accepted the friend request, there was no response. As for Su Zheng, his eyebrows were almost twisted into a hemp rope. He raised his head slowly, with some embarrassment on his face. Teacher Lu, is this contact information correct? Why has there been no response so far? He hesitated and pushed the phone in Lu Xia's direction. The latter took it and looked at it with a frown. From the avatar, to the account, nickname and then compared with the one on my phone. This is no problem, it must be Mr. Zhang Chen himself. As to why you didn't respond, I'm not sure. The further he spoke, the quieter his voice became. Obviously feeling guilty. The air suddenly fell silent, several people lowered their eyes, not knowing what they were thinking. 2 minutes later, Elder Wang slowly spoke up and tentatively guessed, could it be that Mr. Zhang doesn't believe in the identity of the dean? Hearing this, Su Zheng immediately refuted, how could it be, the first thing I introduced was my identity, how could he? Is it really a misunderstanding? Do you think I'm a liar? As he was talking, Su Zheng himself began to wonder if there was something wrong with his introduction. I turned around and checked it. Again. Chapter 9. With a click. Su Zheng frowned and lit a cigarette for himself. He took a deep puff and blew out several smoke rings. Just as Su Zheng was falling into self-doubt, Lu Xia lowered her head and tapped the screen of her mobile phone. Bite. Zhang Chen sighed helplessly, then stood up and picked up his phone. Are the fraudsters so arrogant now? Why isn't it over yet? Just about to open his mouth to fight back. But I saw a dialogue box with the avatar of Ferrari Rich Lady pop up on the screen. Zhang Chen's eyes lit up and his expression changed immediately. The corners of his mouth almost stretched to his ears. Boss Zhang, because of the rocket, I am now in Long Institute. The person who just sent you a friend request and chatted with you was indeed the dean himself. I would like to apologize here as well. I was the one who gave your information to the dean. After 2 messages, there was no more movement from Lu Xia. On the other hand, Zhang Chen became very upset after reading the news. He jumped up from the sofa. I clicked on the dialogue box sent by Su Zheng and took a look. Su Zheng, president of Pengcheng Dragon Academy. How could he not know this name? What was he doing just now? I also guessed that he was a liar, that's news from the president of Long Academy. Whether it was in the past or now, this kind of scene is what he dreams of, okay? How did the application for the gold medal and the dean's active invitation slip through my hands? Zhang Chen slowly inserted his fingers into his hair. The more he thought about it, the more he regretted it. Wandering back and forth in front of the sofa. But his eyes fell on the housekeeper's assistant 01 who was busy in the distance. Zhang Chen's guilty conscience gradually calmed down. I slowly found my way back to the sofa, sat firmly, and murmured, with the Yanhuang technology system in my hands now, are you still afraid that there won't be a second chance like this? I nodded, feeling that my analysis was absolutely correct. Since the system was bound, his most important task now should be to better understand the system's technology point reward mechanism and exchange mechanism. Especially after last night, the circular robot made a liquid nitrogen and methane rocket and it cost him 998 technology points. For him, who has not yet fully understood the plan for accumulating technology points, the supply is seriously insufficient to meet the demand. This also made him more determined to improve his technology points. Only in this way, after the people from Long Academy find him, can he better serve Longguo and Long Academy by exporting more advanced scientific and technological knowledge. Unlike the people in Long Academy who have gradually discovered the truth, the Information Security Department stationed in the Pengcheng military region camp has become a mess. Zhao Weiguo frowned as he waited for Su Zheng's call at his desk. But there was no response for a long time, and I became extremely anxious. Walking back and forth non-stop. Someone, what's the situation now? The anti-aircraft soldier who was constantly monitoring the rocket's launch took off his headphones and stood up. Report to the chief, The rocket is still in a state of continuous acceleration. I believe it won't be long. Maybe it can even fly into outer space. Of course, the latter statement was just his guess. After all, looking at the whole world, not just any rocket can launch into outer space. In addition, this rocket has not yet been recorded in the national database. Civilian rockets will never reach that height. The sirens nearby seemed to have heard the anti-aircraft soldiers' thoughts. A rebuttal was given immediately. Alert! Alert! An unidentified object is accelerating into the sky and is expected to break through the surface atmosphere of the blue planet in an hour and a half. Before the anti-aircraft soldier could finish his words, the instruments around him sounded an alarm. Plus the red light on the instrument kept flashing. The sting was so severe that Zhao Weiguo could hardly open his eyes and his head was buzzing. He even felt like he would faint in the next second. His body shook violently. Upon seeing this, the anti-aircraft soldiers rushed forward to support Zhao Weiguo. Chief. Zhao Weiguo struggled to find his voice again. What did it just say? He was so anxious that he almost spoke in his accent. It said that the rocket is about to leave the blue planet. On the military network, comments from military fans are overwhelming. Oh my god. Was this rocket really launched from Pengcheng Aerospace University, as V. Bully said? This is amazing. As expected of a leader in the aerospace industry, their technological level has reached this level. Brothers upstairs, the news is a bit delayed. You can't blame us for this. Who could have thought that something so outrageous would happen during a meal? They noticed the online reports about Pengcheng Aerospace University and spent most of the day following up. Some military fans who were equipped with complete and sophisticated equipment even monitored the rocket-related data. This giant has a speed of almost Mach 3, which is beyond the reach of our country's current rockets. Yes, and its energy source also looks different from that of a normal rocket. It's accelerating. The military fans connected online suddenly fell silent at the same time. The only sound in the headset was the sound of writing and calculating. About 10 minutes later, everyone said in unison, according to calculations, this is really a big guy. The original body is at least 60 meters long. I'm really curious about its power source. It can support such a large rocket to fly for such a long time, and it is still in a state of continuous acceleration. If it is made in their country, it's fine. If not, such a situation is scary just thinking about it. A murmur came from the headset. I really hope it's made in my country. I'm afraid they are the only ones who can feel how excited each other is. The sudden addition of one of the voices brought their passion to a climax. This rocket is beyond the detection range of our equipment. What? Although their equipment is not as good as the special monitoring equipment of Longwo Long Institute, but it is also the most advanced one on the market. In particular, the observable upper limit of this equipment is within the range of their blue planet. In this case, then doesn't it mean that it will break through the blue planet and head into outer space? The air fell silent. Pairs of eyes, in different locations, stare at the surveillance screen in front of them. At the same time, inside the office of the leader of Longwo, the man sitting at the desk, with a serious face and frowned brows, he exudes even more majesty than before. A sharp aura emanated from his entire body, and the soldier standing in front of him reporting was especially fierce. He lowered his head and did not dare to look him in the eye. In front of him, a machine was spinning at high speed, and the data on it was the key to his current emotions. Just a few minutes ago, he received an alert from the Central Detection Department. An unidentified rocket that continues to accelerate has appeared within the monitoring range. Chapter 10. The launch source is Pengcheng Aerospace University in Longwo. For Longwo, these two sentences represent far-reaching and unknown meanings. This made the leader subconsciously think that this rocket was not included in the country's information database. There are only two situations like this, or, this rocket was made by civilians and has not been reported yet, which is also a good possibility. However, the worst-case scenario is that this rocket was very likely carefully designed by another country and launched from Longwo. This is not a good sign for Longwo. Thinking of Longwo's current aerospace technology, Longwo's leader Longhua almost subconsciously thought of the second point. He speculated in a deep voice, the launch site was chosen at Pengcheng Aerospace University. What does this mean? Is it a shock? A dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Longhua twisted his two thumbs together. After thinking for a long time, he looked up and gave the order. No matter what the reason is, this rocket can no longer stay over Dragon Country. Hearing this, the soldier was stunned. He subconsciously turned around to look at the senior officials of the Dragon Kingdom who were drinking tea silently behind him. The latter placed the teacup on the table slowly. Shooting it down is currently the most direct method, but this also faces a problem. He paused for a moment, frowned and looked at Longhua. What if it hurts innocent people when it falls? Longhua took a deep breath, stood up and walked to the window. What can I do? Huiran, do you have any other ideas? If this is a rocket from another country, it would be a life-threatening bomb for our Dragon Country. Faced with this situation, the soldier was a little at a loss for a moment, his eyes wandering between Longhua and another senior official Zhou Huiran. The air suddenly stagnated, and for a moment, no one said another word. A long time. The moment Zhou Huiran and Longhua's eyes met, there was a snap. He slammed the table and said, then fight. You can't gamble with the lives of the people. That rocket seems to have been flying for quite some time. I'm afraid ordinary missiles will have difficulty catching up with its speed. Zhou Huiran naturally understood what he meant. What do you mean? Do you want to activate that thing? Seeing that the other party didn't say anything, but nodded, 1 hour, Zhou Huiran felt his heart bleeding. That thing is the most advanced missile in service in Longguo, codenamed DF-41, which uses a 3-stage solid fuel carrier rocket as its power launch. Coupled with the computer-controlled inertial guidance system, it greatly improves its accuracy. It also significantly extends its range. But correspondingly, this launch would cost them at least 200 million. However, given the current situation, they could only grit their teeth and swallow it. Depend on which BD dares to cause trouble on Dragon Country's territory. If I find out that they are related to the Empire's spies, I will never let them off. As soon as this order was issued, the commanders of various military regions received relevant notifications one after another. As the cradle of the aerospace industry, Pengcheng was naturally the first to know about it. Hearing the news that the top leaders took action to intercept the rocket, Zhao Weiguo immediately breathed a sigh of relief, sat on the chair and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. However, Su Zheng, whose reaction was completely different from his, was a little confused. What do you mean? The leaders above want to launch a DF-41 to intercept that rocket. He also knew how valuable it was to launch a DF-41 missile. It seems that the higher UPS have made a big move to shoot down the rocket. Thinking of this, Su Zheng casually made a mysterious call. Ji-yun, bring your people and prepare to come to the watchtower to monitor the data. After saying this, Su Zheng hung up the phone without caring about the other party's reaction. 3 minutes later, a capable woman in a white professional coat and a high ponytail walked in from outside with long legs. Behind her was a group of staff members wearing similar clothes as her. Dean, Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen. Her voice was cold but with a hint of seriousness. After a brief exchange with the three of them, I quickly understood the whole story. Then I'll leave the monitoring here to you, Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen. I think it's necessary for the two of you to come with me to meet Mr. Zhang in person. At the scene, Lu Xia panicked for a moment when she saw that 3 people she knew were about to leave. He took a step forward and said nervously, "What about me?" As soon as she entered the door, Ji-yun noticed the strange woman, but due to the special circumstances, she didn't have time to ask. At this time, Lu Xia spoke, and Ji-yun looked over. After all, Long Academy is not a place where just anyone can enter. Oh, that's right, Mr. Lu. I think they need your help when monitoring the data, so I'd like you to stay for a little longer. Su Zheng tried to look more amiable and explained softly. I think this matter is indeed related to me. If she hadn't found Zhang Chen on Xianyu and ordered the rocket model, the following series of events wouldn't have happened. Moreover, this matter is directly related to her job evaluation when she returns to school. She will never give up if it is not handled properly. She didn't want to go home and inherit the property. So I reluctantly responded, okay then. Ji-yun turned around and continued to assign tasks to his employees. After everything was completed, Su Zheng and the other two had already left the watchtower. Although I don't know how much help a little girl like you can provide here, I don't like any noise when I'm working. Please cooperate with me. He glanced at the buzzing phone in Lu Xia's hand and said in a cold voice. With Lu Xia's keen eyesight, she naturally noticed the other party's indifference. I was stunned for a moment. However, having followed Elder Wang and Elder Chen here for quite some time, she naturally knew how important the data on the mobile phone connected to the rocket was. Blinking her eyes, her face looked somewhat innocent. I'm so sorry, I wanted to turn it off, but the 3 people who just left specifically asked me to do so. I'm helpful to you. In fact, this is what will be of the greatest help to you. After saying that, Lu Xia pushed the phone to Ji-yun. Ji-yun originally planned to just lower her head and take a quick look. She didn't believe that this little girl had anything that could help them. Just one look and I couldn't pull myself away. He even reached out and took the phone. This is the data of the rocket. Lu Xia nodded, what else? How do you think I can help you? Realizing his previous inexplicable hostility towards this girl, Ji-yun found it funny to think about it. He shook his head in self-mockery, and when he raised his head again, he said, I'm sorry, comrade. I misunderstood you just now. I apologize to you. Lu Xia waved her hand, no. Xiao Wang, prepare the screen projection equipment. Chapter 11. Yes. The staff member named Xiao Wang took the phone from Ji-yun. Then plugged the data cable into the computer. A pair of hands were typing away on the computer, almost leaving an after-image. The light from the computer screen reflected through his glasses, and at that moment, Xiao Wang looked shrewd. Soon, the relevant data on the rocket control app on Lu Xia's mobile phone was projected onto the large screen embedded in the wall. In the picture, the rocket was seen running at a nearly super high speed. Suddenly, another colleague of Ji-yun spoke up. Reporting to the team leader, the DF-41 launched by the country has also successfully entered the monitoring range. Ji-yun raised his gold-rimmed glasses. Hearing the sound, he walked over, put one hand on the table, held his colleague's chair with the other hand, and leaned over slightly to look over. Sure enough, there was a moving red mark on the screen. It is accelerating to catch up with the rocket in front. Okay, pay attention to data monitoring. Comrade, please come here and rest first. After all, Lu Xia was arranged by the 3 leaders to help here, so she cannot be ignored. Ji-yun stretched out his hand and pointed towards the simple rest area on the side. He also thoughtfully poured Lu Xia a glass of water. I chatted with her for a while. It was from Lu Xia that Ji-yun learned that their dragon country had launched the most advanced missile, but what they were chasing was actually just a rocket model. Not only her, but also the small team behind her, all had their mouths wide open, and they were numb. Unconsciously, their heartbeats gradually quickened. Nothing could make them more excited than hearing these shocking things. In order to hear clearly the content of the conversation between Uchiha and the other person, the staff who were typing on the keyboard also slowed down their finger typing speed. Model rocket? The staff monitoring the data looked at each other in bewilderment. Is it that the world has changed? Or is it that my vision has become narrow? My eyes returned to the screen, to the red dot in the front that was accelerating. This is a speed of over Mach 3 and has such surging power. That girl actually called this a rocket model? Whose rocket model can reach such a height? Ji-yoon was listening with fascination. A staff member suddenly raised his voice to report, "Team leader." Ji-yoon was frightened. A sharp glare shot out. The man swallowed and reorganized his words, "This rocket has flown out of the blue planet and entered space." What? Ji-yoon had just stood up and was about to go over when he heard the staff member continue to report. "And? And what? If you have something to say, just say it." Although Ji-yoon had worked at Long Institute for many years, this was the first time he encountered such a miraculous thing. How could he remain calm? Moreover, the speed of the DF-41 launched by our Dragon country has been slowly decreasing, and the distance between it and the energy rocket is getting farther and farther. It seems that it can't catch up his. As soon as the words fell, all the staff on the scene except Uchiha couldn't help but gasp. They all put down their original work, they all gathered in front of the big screen, staring at it intently. I wish I could see all the holes. On the screen, the two red dots that were getting farther and farther apart became the only focus of everyone's attention. They were stunned, even a little confused. That is the most advanced missile in their Dragon country. FK. This rocket is so powerful. Who designed it? That's all. They all turned their heads and looked at Uchiha, who was holding her mobile phone in both hands and also looking at the screen on the wall. After she realized what was happening, she was a little overwhelmed. Don't look at me, I don't know what's going on. Report. A loud voice directly broke the silence in the leader's office. Enter. The soldier who entered the office was met with the gazes of Longhua and Zhou Huiran. The soldiers broke out in cold sweat at the thought of the consequences of launching the DF-41 to intercept the rocket. Finally, I reported it anyway. Reporting to the two commanders, the DF-41 missile has failed to intercept. Once a word is spoken, it is like a stone sinking into the sea. It's not that Longhua and the others didn't believe what the soldiers said, but the result was beyond their imagination. What was even more difficult for them to accept was that Longhua's most advanced missile, which had never been defeated, suffered its first defeat in the face of an unknown rocket. As the leader of Dragon Country, senior officials, what storms and waves have they not seen? But everything that was happening before them really left them clueless. After calming down my emotions, Longhua said in a deep voice, "Then use a fighter jet. Use the fastest fighter jet. I don't believe we can't catch up with that rocket." Seeing the soldier standing there in a daze, Longhua looked over with his sharp eyes. The latter responded immediately, "Yes." The soldier didn't even know how he left the leader's office. Thinking of the horrific scene at that time, his heart began to pound. Along the way, he kept muttering, "I have never seen a rocket flying so fast in my life." Zhao Weiguo, who also received the news of the missile interception failure, the relaxation on his face was once again replaced by tension. He was even choked by the smoke in his mouth, coughed violently a few times, and his face turned red. Without taking time to ease the tension, he immediately gave orders to the soldiers around him. "Quick! Connect with the Dean of the Dragon Academy." "Ahem. Yes. Chief." Zhao Weiguo followed and stood beside him, looking anxiously at the phone. Call 2 or 3 times in a row. The calls were not answered. Zhao Weiguo was also anxious watching from the side. He waved his hand and said, forget it. I'll call him privately." As he spoke, he picked up his cell phone and hurriedly looked up Su Zheng's number from the contacts. He clenched his fists, gritted his teeth and muttered, "Su Zheng, answer the phone quickly." "Hello? Lao Zhao? Why are you calling my personal phone?" Su Zheng, who was in the car, was looking at the navigation about Zhang Chen's company on his phone, when the page was suddenly replaced by the caller ID. God knows how anxious he is to see Zhang Chen now. But thinking of Zhao Weiguo's personality, he guessed that he had something urgent to discuss with him. Only then did he try his best to suppress his anger. "Ouch, President Su. The missile launched not long ago to intercept the energy rocket actually failed. This rocket was launched in the area under my jurisdiction. How can I not be anxious?" After hearing what the other party said, Su Zheng narrowed his eyes slightly. Ponder it carefully and digest the meaning of his words. Wait a minute, you said the missile interception failed." "Yes. I don't know where this rocket came from, but you know the strength of the DF-41. I thought Su Zheng would agree with my point of view, but the tone on the other side suddenly changed. Well, it's to be expected. After all, that rocket is really powerful." Chapter 12. Hey, you took the wrong road. This should be the way. Su Zheng saw that the driver was about to turn the car into a dead end, which was completely contrary to the navigation he had just seen. He opened his mouth to remind her. He turned around and continued, "Old Zhao, please continue with your story." The other side was stunned for a few seconds. Zhao Weiguo finally reacted. How did he say that Su Zheng didn't sound anxious at all? Was she waiting for him here? "Su Zheng. Dean Su. My hat is about to be lost, and you are playing dumb with me. You said that rocket was a powerful one. What do you mean?" Do you know that rocket? Tell me. Do you know any news? Zhao Weiguo's solemn and angry voice came from the other end of the phone. The sudden rise in volume caught Su Zheng off guard. The sound in my ears was so sharp that it hurt. He subconsciously held the phone farther away. Why are you so angry? I just found out about this too and was just about to tell you when you called me. Here's the thing. Forget it. I'll let Elder Wang and Elder Chen explain it to you. After handing the phone to the two people in the back seat of the car, Su Zheng also took the navigation system from Mr. Wang. Now, the top priority in his mind is to find Zhang Chen as soon as possible. Come, follow my command. Since the rocket left the blue planet, the original rocket body, then, with a snap, it broke in half. Broken in two, the tail half slowly fell, the front half of the tail spewed fire, and then began to soar rapidly. Then it sank into the depths of the universe. As for the falling half, it soon disappeared without a trace. Perhaps the final outcome is to be crushed by a collision and turned into a speck of dust in the universe. In space, inside a space station. 3 tall figures in spacesuits floated cautiously in the cabin. In this small space, even on the blue planet, the simplest actions such as drinking water, eating, and moving have become extremely difficult. Hey! Brother, you'd better stay away from me when I'm drinking water. Kate raised one hand to stop him. Carefully try to drink the water down your stomach. He must be on guard and cautious. In the space capsule, if he made the slightest mistake, his mouth and nose might be covered with water. In serious cases, the person might suffocate to death. The other two didn't even look at him. He was just playing his own table tennis game. Bite. A reminder sounded, they both withdrew their hands at the same time and took back the ping-pong ball. One slowly floated onto the training equipment, fixed itself in place, then I started to exercise. In this weightless environment, the most important thing to note is to exercise your muscles all the time to prevent atrophy. I really want to go home and take a look. I wonder if our technology in the United States is more advanced than when we came here. Michelle looked through the window towards the direction of Blue Star. On that blue planet. It's almost there. According to the date, if we can hold on for another month, we can go back. Kate took a sip of water, and the cup was casually suspended in the cabin and floated over. The three of them fell silent, and no one said a word. However, at this moment, inside the space capsule, where everything was originally normal, red lights were flashing and instruments were sounding alarms. Alert! Alert! An unknown object is approaching at an accelerated speed. Alarm! Alarm! Please come up with a response plan quickly. Michelle didn't react at first, but when she looked forward, she saw a black spot that kept getting bigger. What was even more incredible to them was that there was fire at the end. Awkward. What's going on? I haven't heard of any new launch missions in the country recently. Kate was so flustered that she knocked over the cup of water closest to him. The cup of water floated uncontrollably in clumps throughout the cabin, interfering with their vision and movements. Alarm! The UFO is approaching the cabin quickly, please escape as soon as possible. It is expected to collide with the cabin within 1 minute. What? 1 minute? If they were on land, they could have escaped. But we are in space now. The weightlessness here is amazing. In such a short time, it would be difficult to even open the hatch, let alone escape. And if you want to survive well in this universe, you must at least have complete equipment. Whatever. Hurry up. Seeing that black ball coming so aggressively, I'm afraid that the thing we Eagle Sauce is researching may have been fired without aiming. Hurry up, or you will really be buried in this universe. 50 seconds, they unleash the full potential of their bodies and put on their full equipment. 10. 9. 8. The machine sound in the cabin has begun counting down. After the three of them hurriedly opened the hatch, hang the hook on your body with the rivets on the outside of the cabin. They are gambling. Bet the black ball won't hit the cabin directly. 3. 2. 1. Fire. That's a rocket. Michelle's pupils suddenly contracted. The huge rocket almost brushed past her tall nose. There was a moment, he really felt that if he didn't have this equipment, he would be melted by the flames at the tail end of the rocket. Oh my god! Isn't this rocket too big? This is the first time I've seen such a big rocket. Kate frowned and looked at him. In the peripheral vision range, the original cabin was almost pierced through, leaving only some edges and corners, and the broken remnants of the space capsule were floating in the universe. Kate, why aren't you talking? Are you scared? Michelle floated in front of Kate and said with a smile, shut up. That's too noisy. That's not our Eagle Sauce's rocket. In a word, the other two people were stunned and their smiles froze instantly. If we were to ask which country on the blue planet has the best aerospace technology, the United States would undoubtedly be the winner. The rocket just now was a masterpiece that could dominate the entire blue planet. If you say it wasn't made by them, they would never believe it even if you kill them. I'm telling the truth. I saw the flag on it, a red flag. It's not ours. It is the symbol of the Eastern Dragon Kingdom. Report this news to headquarters immediately. Michelle hurried back to the cabin, but saw the flashing spots in front of her, and the exposed lines due to the violent impact. Stunned. Send a distress signal to the country first, let's go. Go to the nearest Imperial station. When they arrived at the Empire's station, the situation before them was worse than what they had just experienced. Baga. If I knew which country launched the rocket, I would do my best to persuade the Emperor and teach them a lesson after I return. Chapter 13. Following the navigation instructions, Su Zheng and others drove around Pengcheng for almost half a circle. Dean, didn't you say that we will be at Mr. Jiang's company in half an hour? It's been an hour, right? The driver stepped on the brakes, leaned back, and then turned his wrist. Mr. Wang also took off his reading glasses, wiped them briefly, and rubbed his forehead. Looks a little tired. Why do I feel like we're just going around in circles here? That's right, which company would keep changing locations? This is unheard of. Su Zheng lowered his eyes and looked at the sign on his phone, which clearly showed that they were half an hour away from each other. Sighed deeply. It seems that he is deliberately preventing us from finding his company. The more this happened, the more determined Su Zheng became to recruit him into the Dragon Science Institute. Let's go back this time. It seems we still need to contact Zhang Chen through Teacher Lu. Back to Long Academy, the three of them headed straight for the watchtower. But when we arrived at the scene, the building is already empty. The three of them suddenly became anxious. Old Chen and Old Wang rushed straight to the guards with great speed. Guards. Where are Ji Yun's team and Teacher Lu Xia? Report. They are now in the space laboratory. Whoosh. As soon as the guard finished speaking, he felt a gust of wind blowing past him. The three people in front of him suddenly disappeared. The guard scratched his head, a little confused. When did Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen become able to run so fast? Long Science and Technology Institute Aerospace Laboratory. Ji Yun and her staff lined up and stood neatly in front of the big screen. Pairs of eyes were fixed on the scene ahead. His eyes were wide open. Even his mouth was so big that it seemed like it would fall to the ground in the next second. This is absolutely amazing. It has to be said that although Lu Xia is just a university teacher, the scene in front of her is the first time she has seen such a scene in her lifetime. When Su Zheng, Mr. Wang, and Mr. Chen entered, the windows around the laboratory were covered tightly. There was hardly any light coming through. Su Zheng stood up and pulled open the curtains in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, and was about to teach them a lesson for not following the rules. But before I could say anything, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen beside him had already said something regardless of their status. I'll go. Whoa shit. This is really damaging to the image of Long Institute. Su Zheng frowned and looked in the direction they were looking. Fertile. On the big screen in front of me, what appeared was actually the image of Blue Star. In the beginning there were oceans, land, forests, and vegetation. Later, I swam in the water, ran on the ground, and climbed on trees. What shocked these people even more was that even an ant on the ground or a bee flying in the air. The fur on the body is so clear that it seems as if the screen is in 8K mode. Hehe, I've lived for so long, but I've never really taken a close look at these little guys. Old Chen stroked his beard and smiled. Soon, I realized that something was wrong. Suddenly asked, wait, where did you find these videos? Ji Yun and the others were so fascinated by what they saw that they hadn't reacted yet. Lu Xia took a step forward and her finger accidentally touched the screen of the mobile phone. The picture on the big screen suddenly changed. Only this time, the one who appeared before him was Mr. Chen himself. The wrinkles, hairs and even pores on his face can be seen clearly. Now not only Mr. Chen, but also Mr. Su Zheng and Mr. Wang were stunned for a while. After taking a long breath, he managed to pull his thoughts away from the shock of seeing the screen. He also began to stutter when speaking. What's going on? The staff members who knew about the situation, as well as Lu Xia, Ji Yun, and others, looked at each other and smiled. More than 10 minutes ago, we discovered during monitoring that the rocket that had already flown into space had actually established a screen-sharing connection with the app. According to the brief narration of Ji Yun and others, only then did Su Zheng, Mr. Wang, and Mr. Chen understand the whole story. Mr. Wang looked at the phone in Lu Xia's hand in silence, then turned to look at the big screen in front of him. Something was stuck on the tip of my tongue and I didn't know where to start. I fell into deep self-doubt. From the beginning when it was said that this was a model of a rocket, to the moment it soared into space. Now we are told that it can also share screens with domestic mobile phone apps. With all these features combined, it is not an exaggeration to say that it has the power to surpass satellites. With such equipment, why should we fear those great powers that are eyeing Dragon Country? Mr. Chen's face turned red with excitement. Yes, this way, we can know everything they do and even how many pores they have on their faces. Such equipment must be collected in our Long Institute. Not even a step late. Trying hard to calm his inner excitement, Su Zheng walked up to Lu Xia with his hands clasped. After all, there was a question that he had been holding back for a long time but had not dared to ask. Teacher Lu, did you customize this rocket from Comrade Zhang Chen? Lu Xia nodded. These things were clearly proven in the chat records between her and Zhang Chen. There is no need to hide anything. Yes, but at first I thought that what Mr. Zhang ordered was just a 5-meter rocket model. That night, it was Mr. Zhang who reminded me that he had done something a little too big, and since this was our first collaboration, he wouldn't charge me any extra money. Hearing this, the mouths of everyone present twitched imperceptibly. Playing? Or making trouble? They have all read the monitoring data reports. A rocket of more than 60 meters, compared with a rocket model of 5 meters. Is it really just a little bigger? Zhang Chen's description made them doubt their own understanding of numbers. As if he had thought of something, Mr. Wang also stepped forward. Comrade Zhang Chen said that he won't charge you any extra money. So, I wonder if Teacher Lu would be able to tell me what the final price you guys agreed on is. Ah! Hearing this, Lu Xia couldn't help but scream. The people closest to her were frightened. What's wrong? Lu Xia quickly found the chat interface with Zhang Chen. While sliding his hands on the screen, he muttered, "I've been so busy here that I forgot to pay the balance to Mr. Zhang." Out of respect for Lu Xia's privacy, when she entered the payment password, the others turned their backs. I just looked up inadvertently and found that Lu Xia had not disconnected the screen projection at that time. Watching the eye-catching 1 million transfer on the big screen, Su Zhenggang picked up the cup of water but didn't have time to take a sip. Bang! He fell to the floor with a thud. I almost passed out on the spot. How come this is only 1 million? Chapter 14. After Su Zheng caught the sound of himself floating, he turned his head jerkingly. Seeing this, Mr. Wang on the side stepped forward and quickly added a sentence. Is it because of the limit that you transferred 1 million at a time? Although he said this, Mr. Chen, who was also a witness to the whole process, I could hear the tremor in his words. The people in front of her suddenly became excited, and Lu Xia didn't know how to respond for a moment. No, that's not it. How can it be only 1 million, call? After hearing Lu Xia's words, the staff members all breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Wang raised his hand and patted his chest. I told you, how could the rockets buy this for just 1 million? The price Mr. Zhang and I finally agreed on is 2 million. Suddenly, when these words were spoken, the staff on the scene couldn't help but smack their lips. He suddenly turned around and looked at the clearly visible pores on the big screen. This is the picture seen from space. It can be said that it swept across the blue star. As for Elder Wang and Elder Chen, they both clearly felt that their feet were weak and powerless. It seemed as if he was going to faint in the next second. Two elders, are you okay? Su Zheng reacted quickly and stepped forward to steady the two men. This sudden situation made Lu Xia feel at a loss. What she said was all true, why did they react like this? Besides, at the beginning, she didn't know that what Zhang Chen made would actually be a real rocket. Do you know? 1 million, 2 million, you can't even buy a piece of the skin of this rocket. Listening to Mr. Chen's erratic voice. Even if our Dragon Academy spends more on rocket research, it is definitely this one among the 3 military research. As he spoke, Mr. Chen raised his thumb. There was no pride on his face. Even Su Zheng, who had been silent for a long time, came out at this time. Mr. Chen is right. The research and manufacture of rockets by the Dragon Science Institute will cost at least hundreds of millions of dollars. Of course, this does not include satellite design and manufacture. Now you know what this rocket represents, right? Lu Xia was also complaining in her heart. How could she know that her original intention was just to customize a model? Zhang Chen, the sixth brother, actually sent himself a real rocket. If Zhang Chen hadn't acted on his own initiative, how could all these things have happened? She could only nod along. At this time, in this situation, can we still say no? So, what should we do now? Lu Xia asked tentatively. After thinking for a long time, I suggest that the most important thing for us right now is to find Zhang Chen as soon as possible. Collaborate with him. They all understood what Su Zheng meant. Everyone nodded repeatedly, and were even more pleased to see it come to fruition. Although everything here is not going so smoothly, but compared with the Dragon Country leader Long Hua, the atmosphere was much more relaxed. 10 minutes ago, both the Eagle Sauce and the Empire received important information launched back from space. Dragon Country has mastered rockets with a higher level of technology. At the same time as the launch was successful, it easily penetrated the research station they had established in space. The leaders of the two countries were immediately furious. There are two reasons for this. How could Longwo develop more advanced rockets before them? Who gave the Dragon Kingdom the courage to destroy the Eagle Sauce and the Empire's research station? At this time, the leader of the Eagle Sauce side immediately announced two orders. One is to convene an international league meeting and put Longwo in a position where everyone would criticize him. As for the second, he secretly sent out elite troops to find an opportunity to destroy the rocket of Dragon Country. How can you, Dragon Country, have something that I, Eagle Sauce, don't even have yet? The air defense alarm of the International Alliance's Information Monitoring Department was sounded. The relevant countries immediately became nervous. After all, if the Alliance's alarm had not detected a major threat, it will definitely not ring. Moreover, the duration of the alarm sound varies according to the different degrees of danger. But this time the alarm sounded, the sound echoed for a long time, as if there was no intention of stopping. Leaders of various countries, led by the Eagle Sauce, immediately held an online meeting. Before the meeting, each country notified its own country to investigate the matter. Especially the launch source of this UFO, not only that, but also the flight data of this UFO. As for the leaders of the Dragon Kingdom, before receiving the meeting notice, they had no idea that the rocket had penetrated the Eagle Sauce and the Imperial Research Station. This led to the fact that once the meeting started, the Dragon Kingdom suffered a joint linguistic attack from the Eagle Sauce and the Empire. According to the League of Nations, attacking other countries without reason will be punished accordingly. Sometimes, we should be more low-key in our conduct, Mr. Long, what do you think? Being suddenly called out, Long Hua frowned slightly. Of course what you two said is right, but when you suddenly pointed at me, I don't quite understand it. Bang. Still pretending. The rocket launched by your Dragon Nation directly penetrated the space station of my Eagle Sauce and the Empire. Our soldiers were almost wiped out. What else do you have to say? The leader of the Eagle Sauce was so angry that he was puffing his beard and glaring with his eyes wide open, staring intently at Long Hua on the screen. But what he didn't know was that Long Hua had no idea about the inside story. Just as all the leaders on the screen focused their attention on the video frame that belonged to Longguo, the other party just smiled faintly. Then he spoke slowly. How can you be sure that it is a rocket from our dragon country? We have relevant records for every rocket in our dragon country. Sometimes, if you don't have evidence, don't make irresponsible statements. Although Longhua spoke slowly, he was still full of vigor even through the screen. The Eagle Sauce and the Empire shut up. The two ignored the camera and looked directly at each other. Look, there's no evidence, so don't talk nonsense, lest you hurt everyone's harmony. Beep beep. During the meeting, a message broke the serious atmosphere. The leader of the Eagle Sauce looked down, just one glance. The next second he burst into laughter. Pick up your cell phone and face the screen towards the camera. A familiar and eye-catching red flag suddenly appeared in the picture. What else do you have to say now? We need you to come up with a reasonable explanation. In Longhua, people were stunned when they saw the logo on the rocket. Later, he stood up and moved forward. I can't help but sigh in my heart, this rocket that can't even catch up with the DF-41 intercontinental missile is really from their dragon country. God knows how excited he was at this moment, but fortunately he knew that the current occasion did not suit him to show it. Chapter 15. If he were to show his inner emotions, wouldn't the two leaders of Hardware and Empire be so angry that they would die? He raised his hand to make a fist to his mouth, trying to hide his smile, and coughed twice. After calming down, he looked at the two victims on the other side of the screen with a sad look. I'm sorry, you two, this rocket. Report. Report. During the meeting, reports were heard one after another. Such a situation is extremely rare, and it is the first time that leaders of various countries have encountered it. In desperation, with the consent of all parties, the process can be temporarily suspended. Aviation monitoring equipment showed that an unidentified flying object was falling back to the blue planet in the form of free fall. The speed is increasing. It is speculated that it was caused by the detachment of its thrusters. The most serious thing is that the aviation monitoring equipment was unable to accurately predict the landing location and time of the UFO. The League of Nations would never have imagined that they would be receiving the same news now. Instead, several countries that have always been on good terms with the Eagle Sauce communicated with each other before the meeting resumed. However, after several countries that are good at flattering the Eagle Sauce said this, the content they received was surprisingly consistent. When Longhua saw this situation, he was at a loss whether to laugh or cry for a moment. I didn't expect that I would become a recognized opponent of all countries. Xiongguo, who had been silent for a long time, said in a deep voice. Okay. The most urgent thing now is that all our countries should unite against the common enemy. As for the rocket, since we can't predict where it will land, we should arm it from all sides. As he spoke, the expression of the leader of the bear country immediately became serious. When a free fall hits the ground, the speed will certainly increase at an extremely terrifying rate. Add to that its own weight. No matter where it lands on the blue planet, the consequences will be disastrous. After saying these words, maybe it's to relieve my stress. The leader of the bear country actually took a deep puff of his cigarette as if no one was around. Finally, he cast his sharp eyes towards Longhua's camera. Mr. Long, what do you think of this solution? The online conference space suddenly fell into silence. Some only have some intermittent electric current sounds. Longhua's eyebrows were almost twisted into a rope at this time. The price of doing so is that Dragon Country will completely lose the opportunity to research this rocket in the future. Alas, what a pity. We hadn't even been able to bring it back to the Research Institute for study, and it was about to die heroically. At this time, even though he tried his best to control his emotions, Longhua couldn't suppress the distress on his face. His somewhat dull voice slowly came out from the microphone. In fact, I have already sent our fighter jets to intercept them, but there is no news yet. Longhua only mentioned the fighter jets and did not disclose the news of the failure of the missile interception. After all, this is not something to be proud of. For the safety of Blue Planet this time, I agree with the International Alliance's plan. Good. Just waiting for the sound, leaders of various countries all breathed a sigh of relief. Next, before Longhua could say anything else, the meeting ended hastily. Among them, the fastest ones are Eagle Sauce and Empire. They can't wait to shoot through the Dragon Kingdom's rocket. As for the Information Security Department of the Pengcheng Military District and the Long Institute, we only received the news later. As a person directly related to this matter, Lu Xia will naturally be implicated if something really happens in the end. She was jumping up and down anxiously. Before these things happened, she just wanted to get a simple job as a vocational teacher and didn't want to go back to inherit the family property. How did it become like this? Think of that rocket that's over 60 meters high, freely falling back to the ground on the Blue Planet. She couldn't even imagine the destructive power. It's over, it's over. By then, even if she loses everything she owns, it won't be enough to compensate for the damage caused by the rocket. Suddenly, scratching her head and unable to come up with any result, Lu Xia directly set her sights on Su Zheng. Since he is the president of Long Academy, he has a close relationship with the head of Pengcheng Military Region. Surely they have some way to prevent this from happening? It seems that you must do it yourself this time. It is impossible for an ordinary person to complete such a difficult task. As he spoke, Su Zheng raised his hand again and patted his chest hard. Don't worry, we will provide you with the trajectory of the rocket as it is being intercepted. So, please keep our communications equipment open. From the other side of the phone, there was a crackling sound of electricity, and then Zhao Weiguo's heroic voice came over. Just leave it to me, I will definitely complete the task. To be honest, When Zhao Weiguo said this, his eyes were obviously a little erratic. My heart skipped a beat. After all, he had heard that the rocket couldn't even catch up with the DF-41 intercontinental missile. Can he intercept it with a fighter jet? This is obviously a bit impossible, especially since the rocket is still falling towards the ground in free fall. If he was unlucky, he would be smashed back to the ground of Blue Star in an instant and turned into meat paste. Of course, the most urgent task, based on the actual situation, is that he cannot afford to be cowardly. Zhao Weiguo and Su Zheng had just agreed to take tough military measures to intercept the falling rocket. On that side, he received a task from the top leader of Dragon Country. He stood straight and shouted loudly. Yes. Mission accomplished. The moment I hung up the phone and walked out of the military zone, Zhao Weiguo's whole temperament changed. Missile troops, pay attention to receiving messages from the Dragon Science Institute at any time, and keep an eye on the trajectory of the rocket's fall. Soldiers, follow me, strike hard and defend Blue Star. Yes. 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 At this moment, the passionate voice gradually faded away. Zhao Weiguo looked up at the sky. Their battle is coming. The staff in the Long Institute were not idle at all, and busy figures quickly shuttled around the aerospace laboratory. They have various data and forms in their hands. Lu Xia, who was sitting in the corner and knew that she couldn't help much except being quiet, also became anxious. With my hands clasped together, I silently prayed, everything must be safe and this matter must be over as soon as possible. If my dad knew that I got into such a big trouble outside, I'm afraid I won't even have the chance to reason with him or negotiate terms in the future. Military bases of various countries. There were alarms blaring in the sky. Tower. Tower. The missile has been calibrated and all data is normal. Please ask for instructions from your superiors whether to launch it. The person on the intercom spoke a fluent foreign language. Less than a second after these words were spoken, a shout came from the other side, fire. Chapter 16. At the same time, in various parts of the world, missiles of different types were launched towards the same target. In particular, the troops led by Zhao Weiguo took the lead in this mission. But the Eagle Sauce missile that followed directly surpassed it and was far ahead. In the subsequent process of intercepting Longguo's rockets, the missiles and equipment of other countries were far surpassed. Very good. This status is in line with our international status. What rocket went deep into space and pierced our space station? Today I will make it disappear from this world completely. The Eagle Sauce leader stared coldly at the screen in front of him. His eyes were fixed on the Bear Country super missile that was following closely behind the missile. 10 meters, 8 meters, 6 meters. He slowly turned his head, glanced coldly at the old guys behind him, and sneered, if you don't work harder, you will soon be surpassed by those reckless men from the Bear Country. By then, I don't think you will have to stay here any longer. Hearing this, the silver-haired old men with gold-rimmed glasses on their high noses behind him were ashamed. Yes. We will definitely solve this problem as soon as possible. After hearing this response, the Eagle Sauce leader's expression eased slightly. Looking at the Dragon Country fighter jets that were far behind, many countries secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, the rocket we launched this time was the one we bought at a high price from Eagle Country and Bear Country. Otherwise, wouldn't it be the same as Dragon Country? It would be a disgrace. Longhua and Zhou Huiren also noticed this. He shook his head helplessly, don't worry about what they think. We lost a DF-41 intercontinental missile a few hours ago. Then he added meaningfully, I hope everything goes well for Zhao Weiguo this time. After thinking about it, he was worried that Zhao Weiguo, who was always competitive, would rush forward without any scruples. How can a fighter jet compare to a missile? Moreover, these missiles were developed in the United States and China. Press a button in front of you, it was directly connected to the fighter jet under Zhao Weiguo. Be careful to preserve your strength and don't push yourself too much. Receive. The speed of the Dragon Kingdom fighter plane slowed down significantly, but it was not thrown further away by the missile in front. I don't know how long it took, all I could hear was the humming of the instrument in front of me. After looking at the displays on their own country's instrument screens, leaders of various countries were even more stunned. Because on the screen, when the rocket is falling, it can not only dodge in time when it encounters missiles from various countries, even as it was passing over the missiles, the flame at the tail suddenly turned dark purple. It only took about 3 breaths. On the monitoring screens of various countries, the missiles of the Eagle Sauce, which was far ahead, disappeared in an instant, and then the Zenit rocket of the Bear Country appeared. Soon, everyone realized that things were not simple. What on earth are they, Longguo, going to do? Quick, quick, quick. Alert. Alert. Quickly open the anti-aircraft weapons. Open them all. Longhua hurriedly called the fighter planes of Longguo to inform the soldiers. Get away from that rocket. Use the fighter's maximum speed and evacuate as quickly as possible. In the aerospace research room of Long Institute, I really didn't expect that this rocket is so powerful. Those were the missiles of the Eagle Sauce and the Zenit rocket of the Bear Country. They were simply destroyed in seconds. The crowd gathered in front of the big screen and watched the whole process. I just saw with my own eyes how those missiles were melted in the blink of an eye by the flames at the tail of the rocket. I couldn't help but gasp. Oh my god. This rocket is so powerful. The connection with Zhao Weiguo, the notification to the fighter officers, the scene was also in chaos for a while. In panic, the first thing Mr. Wang thought of was the app in Lu Xia's hand that was connected to the rocket, and hope rekindled in his eyes. Teacher Lu, I wonder if the app on your phone can control the rocket and prevent it from falling down. Once these words came out, other staff members also turned their eyes over at the same time. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt that what Mr. Wang said was wrong. Mr. Huang didn't give him any face at all. Old Wang, you old man, are you crazy? Even if the app can control the rocket launch, it can't pause it in the air. Old Wang was stunned for a moment, smiled bitterly, and shook his head helplessly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Lu Xia, who was standing aside, was a little at a loss. She certainly knew the seriousness of the situation. He quickly stepped forward to explain, actually, it was Boss Zhang who taught me how to launch this rocket, and I don't know much about this rocket. How about I go ask Mr. Zhang? There was a question in his voice. Okay, okay. When they heard that Lu Xia was going to contact Zhang Chen, Elder Wang and Elder Chen squeezed forward one after another without caring that Su was in front of them. They also wanted to see how powerful Mr. Zhang was. On the other side, so it's so easy to get technology points. If I keep taking orders, the rewards I get, calculated based on the technology difficulty, won't it be easy to far exceed the technology points I paid? Zhang Chen, who had just finished understanding the system process, was about to take a closer look on Xianyu, but before he could even sit on the sofa, I received a series of life-threatening calls from Lu Xia. Before he could even open his mouth, Lu Xia's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. Mr. Zhang, something terrible has happened. The rocket has fallen down by itself. I believe it will hit the ground soon. By then. Before Lu Xia finished her words, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen couldn't help but come over. Hello Mr. Zhang, we are the staff and aerospace consultants of the Long Institute. Yes, the situation is urgent now. We want to know if you have any solution to this problem. When they said this, they actually didn't hold out much hope. After all, according to the technology they currently possessed, it is indeed an impossible task. Unless the rocket explodes in the air. However, the next second, Zhang Chen's answer surprised them even more. The voice coming from the phone was calm and even a bit leisurely if you listened carefully. You fell back so quickly? It didn't take too long. He pursed his lips and said, okay then. Ms. Lu, please open the app on your phone. I will send you an automatic recycling control code later. Please check it out. After saying this, Zhang Chen was anxious to find another business deal for himself, and he didn't bother to listen to the other party's response. He just hung up the phone. Little did they know that after hearing Zhang Chen's words, many staff members, including Su Zheng, had their mouths twitching uncontrollably. Chapter 17. Is this, am I dreaming? What did he say? Automatic recovery control password? I heard the questioning voice beside me. Su Zheng stammered and simply repeated what he had just heard. I seem to have heard him say something about a recyclable control command. Good job. Does this thing really exist? Yes. Once these words came out, in this huge aerospace laboratory, everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, and then there were bursts of gasps. This is obviously unbelievable. Although Su Zheng is the dean of Long Academy, he has no knowledge about aerospace. That certainly doesn't mean he can compare to the say of Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. Especially seeing the look of surprise on the two people's faces, he became even more curious about the order that Zhang Chen was about to send. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the large projection screen in front of them. I clenched my hands together, and even my heart beat faster. The next second, ding. Ding. 2 message alert tones sounded in succession. Zhang Chen's voice was the first to be played. Ms. Lu, the automatic recycling control command has been sent to you now. I have also received the balance. I look forward to our next cooperation. It would have been fine if we didn't mention the final payment, but as soon as the final payment of 1 million was mentioned, the staff's faces turned black. In his heart, he couldn't help but feel sorry for Zhang Chen, and then he said silently that the price was not worth the rocket at all. What a loss. What a loss. Ji Yun's idea was very simple, and all his energy was focused on the recovery and control command of the rocket. A pair of eyes stared at the computer in front of him. The computer is connected to the projection device. The slender fingers were also tapping quickly on the keyboard. A few minutes later, Ji Yun swallowed his saliva and looked up at Mr. Wang, Su Zheng, and Mr. Chen. Should I press it? Several people nodded without saying anything. His eyes suddenly became serious. Many staff members on the scene didn't even dare to breathe. He was afraid that he would affect Ji Yun's actions. Liquid methane advanced rocket recovery system loaded. Technology loading completed. System data verification completed. Recyclable data matched successfully and activated. It is expected that the liquid nitrogen methane rocket will begin to be recovered in 3 seconds. The countdown begins. 3, 2, there is also a countdown on the big screen in front of me. During the countdown process, the aerospace laboratory was extremely quiet. Looking at the scene in front of me, not only Su Zheng and other staff members of the Long Institute were stunned, even Lu Xia had no idea that the rocket could actually be recovered. For a moment, everyone found this answer difficult to accept. The deposit plus the final payment only cost 2 million in total to buy this recyclable liquid nitrogen methane rocket. It is absolutely impossible for the many professionals who specialize in aerospace technology present here not to envy Lu Xia. After the countdown ends, their eyes automatically turn to the screen. While the button is pressed, the rocket that was in free fall 1 second ago, it was like someone slammed on the brakes. With a click, it stopped in mid-air. Not to mention the Long Institute, all the experts and staff in the aerospace laboratory were shocked. Even the leaders and professional bosses of the countries in the international alliance, such as the United States, and the Empire, stood there in a daze for a long time after seeing the red dot indicator on the screen suddenly stop. It took a long time for me to digest this incident and come back to my senses. Can someone come and tell me? Why did that rocket suddenly break? Who dares to do that? The Dragon Nation must have done something to that rocket. They did it on purpose to destroy our missiles. The leaders of the Eagle Sauce felt their hearts bleeding when they thought about how that rocket could easily swallow their most advanced missile. You know, it's not an easy thing to study such a thing. The Dragon Kingdom easily swallowed up dozens of their missiles. The losses brought to these allied countries are absolutely unpredictable. Longguo. I hope you can digest so many missiles at once with peace of mind. On the glass of the French window, the leader of the Eagle Sauce had a gloomy face, but a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Looking at the dark clouds outside the window, slowly converging towards the center, it looked as if a storm might come at any time. Report. The data reflected by the monitoring instrument shows that the rocket is being recovered. The staff member who stood up to report couldn't suppress his excitement. He saw on his mobile phone that his brother stationed at the Dragon Science Institute in Pengcheng, who had just returned from a mission, was describing what he saw today. There were so many missiles, they were meant to intercept the rocket, but they didn't even touch the edge of the rocket. In the blink of an eye, it was melted away without leaving any residue. If his brother hadn't run fast, he would have been reduced to ashes. Since this rocket has such ability, doesn't that mean that the Dragon Nation is capable? Whether in the past or now, fists always have the final say. After all, if you fall behind, you will be beaten. After hearing the soldiers' reports, everyone in the laboratory couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then he cheered excitedly. Long live the Dragon Kingdom! After experiencing this together with these bigwigs who are on the front line of scientific research, Uchiha finally understood her own heart. What she wanted was not the school's vocational education evaluation, but to stick to her own choices and give it a try in her own life. Live for yourself. Instead of having everything arranged by my father and living like a tool. As everyone cheered, the ringing of Su Zheng's cell phone immediately broke the lively scene. When I saw who was calling, it turned out to be Zhao Weiguo. Swallowed saliva, he raised his hand and put his finger to his mouth, signaling everyone to be quiet, then walked away and answered the phone. Old Zhao. Su Zheng had just started talking when the hot-tempered man on the other side interrupted him directly. Don't tell me that. I call you Dean Su only because we have been friends for many years. Su Zheng. How dare you, an old man, try to fool me. I really misjudged you. A higher-ranking official can crush someone to death. To be more specific, Zhao Weiguo is still a leader. Su Zheng was a little panicked at this time. After all, there were quite a few staff members and Lu Xia watching behind him. He is the president of the Dragon Academy, so it's fine for his own people, but he can't lose face in front of outsiders, right? He covered his mouth with his other hand, lowered his voice, and apologized quickly. It's my fault this time. I didn't think it through. How about this? Tell me what I should do to make you feel better. Chapter 18. Hearing this, the anger that Zhao Weiguo had suppressed in his heart instantly disappeared. A hint of shrewdness flashed across his slightly cloudy eyes. The smile on the corner of his mouth was suppressed. He coughed a few times and continued in a serious tone. You said it, and I'm serious. As for what you should do, I have a plan. I hope you can follow my words after listening to it. Seeing that the other side had finally eased the situation, Su Zheng dared not refuse. Although I still felt that something was not right with the other party, but in the end, he kept praising her, of course, of course. Seeing the other party agreed readily, Zhao Weiguo smiled. Well, we have a military exchange scheduled with the Empire in 2 days. Can you lend me that rocket? Hearing the voice, Su Zheng's brows knitted tightly together. Now I can no longer control my emotions. He shouted angrily, impossible. This is absolutely impossible, you'd better not even think about it. The people in the laboratory, including Lu Xia, suddenly turned their eyes over. I realized that my voice was too loud and my attitude was a little excited. Especially after meeting Lu Xia's gaze, Su Zheng pursed his lips, feeling a little embarrassed. That rocket belongs to Professor Lu Xia. We at Long Institute have no right to decide where that rocket goes. Su Zheng, you don't keep your word, and now you want to cheat openly, right? Zhao Weiguo stood up and walked to his desk, looking at an old newspaper on the table. I can't help but recall the tone and scene of the Empire sneering at Dragon Country. That is a shame that Dragon Country can never erase. Even if I have to sacrifice my reputation today, I must get that rocket. Seeing that the other side was silent, Zhao Weiguo pressed on, Su Zheng, can't you just treat it as a request from me, your elder brother? Or do you have to wait for me to come visit you in person? Su Zheng also looked very embarrassed. If I had known this guy was so difficult to deal with, I shouldn't have answered his call. Now it's great, I'm really worried. With a cold snort, come on, I can only say that I'll do my best, but I can't guarantee that they will agree to the transfer. You'd better be prepared for failure. After all, this rocket cost someone 2 million to buy. After much persuasion, the other party finally gave in a little. Zhao Weiguo also breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, I know all this. At worst, I can just give her 2. What? 2 million? Now it was Zhao Weiguo's turn to be surprised. His eyes widened, and just as his buttocks touched the chair, his whole body suddenly bounced up again. Explain to me what 2 million means? Don't tell me that I only spent 2 million to buy the rockets. Beep beep beep. Until the busy tone came from the phone. Zhao Weiguo took the phone away from his ear, his brows twisted into the shape of a character. His expression was as ugly as if he had suddenly eaten a fly. In their military, let alone a rocket, even an upgraded tank cannot be bought for 2 million. Not to mention, she spent 2 million to buy a rocket that was powered by liquid nitrogen and methane, and most importantly, it was reusable. In addition, his subordinates reported to him after they came back. In the blink of an eye, the rocket melted and swallowed up dozens of missiles from the Eagle Sauce, Bear Country, and other countries. Zhao Weiguo felt that the 2 million was not even worth the rocket. Later, the more I thought about it, the more I felt something was wrong, and I felt even more uncomfortable. Finally, after thinking it over for a while, he made up his mind. No, I have to go and see it myself. Who on earth pushed the price of this rocket down so low? Aren't young people these days afraid of being at a disadvantage? Guards. Prepare a car for me. I need to go to the Dragon Academy in person. On the other side, after Su Zheng hung up the phone, maybe he approached Lu Xia again with a very clear purpose. Looking into his eyes, he even looked a little uncomfortable. After some hesitation, he finally gritted his teeth and made up his mind. I wonder if you would be willing to temporarily hand over Mr. Liu's rocket to the state for research. Worried that the other party would suspect that they were abusing their power, they hurriedly explained, you can rest assured that we will return it to you after we have finished our research. Lu Xia looked around and smiled calmly. Of course there is no problem with this. I bought it in the first place just for teaching purposes. Now that her teaching duties were over, as a university teacher, there was naturally no use for her to keep it. Now that the teaching has ended and the potential safety risks it may bring to the Blue Star people have been eliminated, I am willing to hand it over to the country for research free of charge. Lu Xia's answer was obviously unexpected by everyone present. It can be said that her information had been placed completely in the dean's office since she stepped into Long College. Born into a business family, this girl is worldly wise but not worldly wise. It's totally different. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen also burst into laughter immediately. That's great. Then, Elder Chen and I will personally escort you back to Pengcheng Aerospace University and clear your name in front of the school's teachers and students. Lu Xia knew that what Mr. Wang was referring to was the arrogant and domineering Wang Qiqui who had been finding fault with her throughout the practical class. This is indeed somewhat necessary. After all, I have been away from Pengcheng Aerospace University for such a long time. I still don't know how Wang Qiqui is deliberately plotting against me behind my back. Now there are still people listening who think about themselves. He nodded gratefully. Then Xia would like to thank you two elders first. I have to trouble you two to come here in person. After personally sending Lu Xia to the gate, Su Zheng gave the order without even turning his head. Get the car ready. I want to go talk to Comrade Zhang Chen in person. I just don't believe that I can't find him for such a long time, just a company. Keep an eye on the recovery of the rocket and its entry into the city, and report anything immediately. Yes. Guaranteed mission accomplished. The staff member suddenly put his legs together and shouted loudly. As soon as the words fell, a roar was heard from not far away. I'll go with you. The car door slammed shut. Zhao Weiguo strode towards Su Zheng with big strides. Who are you going to see? I'm going with you. Su Zheng moved his mouth and thought to himself, why is this guy here? Didn't I already promise? Don't you believe me? Well, one more person means more help. Remember to be polite when you see others. Zhao Weiguo frowned and asked, so, who are you going to see? The man who built this rocket. Chapter 19. Buzz buzz buzz. A buzzing sound came from the slightly thick clouds. All the pedestrians passing by on the road looked up at the sky, and saw the huge monster suddenly appearing before their eyes. Holy crap! Is that big thing a rocket? Why does it look to me like the one that was launched near Pengcheng Aerospace University a few days ago? Is it true? A man riding a heavy motorcycle took off his helmet with just his hand. Looked over excitedly. Some even abandoned their cars in the middle of the road. People ran to the side of the road, took out their cell phones and started taking pictures of the scene in front of them. This incident was also widely spread on the internet by these pedestrians. Soon, those videos and pictures were posted on various social media platforms. I thought that after the rocket was launched, it wouldn't take long for everyone to forget about this matter. Even if we talk about it later, it will just be something to talk about after dinner. No one would have thought that there would be new news so soon. What is even more unexpected is that the rocket can come back on its own after it has been launched. This incident was extremely shocking not only in Dragon Country, but also in the whole world. More and more people are beginning to pay attention to this matter again. Soon, the number of netizens paying attention to this matter reached millions. When did the technology in these universities become so advanced? Rockets can be launched whenever they want and can return home on their own. By the way, look at that rocket. Can you see the flame at the tail clearly? Blue-purple flames. I still remember a netizen named Xiao Zuj who popularized a lot of aerospace knowledge to other netizens on the internet. So that means this is a real rocket? I don't remember who challenged Xiao Zuj on the internet at that time. Who insisted that this was a model? Many netizens brought up the bet between the netizen who insisted that the rocket was a model and Xiao Zuj. There is no one in the world who doesn't like to watch the fun. Especially when it's other people's excitement. Someone responded immediately. I brought up this matter again on the internet. Naturally, there are many people who want to watch this netizen's performance. Immediately, many netizens on the internet began to tag the person who made a bet with Xiao Zuch. In the basement of a Pengcheng family. In the room where I found a bargain, all the items were placed in a mess. The ground was littered with all kinds of bottles and jars. Maybe it was because the air was sealed, the whole room was filled with an extremely pungent and foul smell. A young man with an unshaven beard was reclining on a single bed in the corner. Holding a mobile phone in his hand, he was playing games and swearing. At the top of the screen, small pop-up windows kept popping up, tagging him. Until a game over prompt popped up on his game page. Depend on. He cursed and threw the phone against the wall. This is a qualifying match. Who the hell keeps interrupting me during the most crucial moment? After thinking about it, he reached out and took the phone back. After fingerprint unlocking, scroll down and click on the small pop-up window. Those cunning eyes were rolling around. I quickly browsed through all the content on the phone. Use 2 fingers to zoom in and out on the screen, zoom in and out again. Unbelievably stood up, holy crap. That big thing is actually a rocket? How is that possible? When did an ordinary university become able to build a rocket? Moreover, they were blatantly launching missiles near the school. What if something unexpected happened? Looking at the comments of netizens on my phone, tag Waste Manson, when will you fulfill your bet with Xiao Zuch, my friend? Everyone is waiting to watch your live broadcast. Are you afraid and going back on your word? Wan San frowned and looked at suddenly I remembered the lofty ambitions he expressed when he saw the rocket launch. If this was a real rocket, I would stand upside down and drink my PS. This sentence keeps playing in my mind. He slumped back to the foot of the bed in a daze. The cell phone immediately fell from his hand and landed on the floor with a thud. Drinking urine while standing upside down? FKU. I'm not a fool. Dean, we have already investigated the exact location of Zhang Chen's company. This time it will be absolutely foolproof. As the words fell, Su Zheng's cell phone buzzed. Reopening the navigation he used to search for Zhang Chen's company, he clearly noticed something different. Eyebrows slightly raised, you are worthy of being the number 1 in the field of software at our Long Institute, Team Leader G. I will give you credit for this time. As for meeting Zhang Chen, Chi Yumiao was not recognizing his strength. After understanding the navigation clearly, he immediately ordered the driver to turn the steering wheel. Step on the accelerator and head straight for the target. Half an hour later, the Long Institute's special vehicle suddenly braked in front of an office building in the northern area of A Pengcheng. Su Zheng got out of the car and looked at the office building in front of him, then looked at his mobile phone. The navigation above has shown that the target location is 20 meters ahead of you. This navigation is over. Welcome to use it next time. I don't know why, but Zhao Weiguo and Su Zheng heard the navigation and prompt tone. Suddenly, the two people's hearts couldn't help but speed up. Zhao Weiguo took a deep breath and subconsciously tilted his head slightly towards Su Zheng. He lowered his voice and said, Ahem, to be honest, I have never been this nervous since I went to the battlefield. After all, he is a genius who can develop a rocket that is ahead of the world. And you are not the only one like this. I am also nervous now. Su Zheng finished his response. Pick up the phone again, I went up there according to the number above. As for Zhang Chen himself, he was busy counting equipment in the company's warehouse. Later he finally discovered a drawback. If you read it from beginning to end by yourself, you may not be able to record it completely. Suddenly thinking of something, Zhang Chen clapped his hands. Don't I have a high-tech housekeeper assistant? Wouldn't it be easy for her to accomplish these? Why are you wasting your time here? 01, I am now assigning you a new task. 01, who was originally sorting out the company's various documents in the office, received Zhang Chen's order. He raised his head suddenly, and his eyes flashed blue light imperceptibly. Yes, Mr. Zhang. 01He walked towards the warehouse. Just left not long ago, the company's door was pushed open. I thought I would be able to see people busying around in the company when I opened the door. But after entering, Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo were stunned when they saw the empty and somewhat messy scene in front of them. We must be on the right track, right? Are you sure this is Zhang Chen's technology company? Chapter 20. On the floor inside was the damaged ceiling that had just been removed, and the chandelier that they had originally intended to replace. There are many wall putty buckets, paint brushes in the middle. Su Zheng and his companion carefully avoided the renovation tools and walked inside. The technology company that developed the liquid nitrogen methane rocket? Zhao Weiguo scratched his head and said, let's go in and take a look. This doesn't look like a tech company at all. It looks more like a small studio that needs to be renovated. Zhao Weiguo and Su Zheng looked around this small technology company. I never thought that after I gave this task to you, you would have completed it in less than a minute. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Zhang. These are all part of 01's job duties and should be done. Not far away, a tightly closed door was slowly opened. Facing the two strangers who suddenly appeared in his company, Zhang Chen frowned and looked at them. The two sides looked at each other. Who are you looking for? Perhaps because he detected Zhao Weiguo's serious and bloodthirsty look, 01 lay in front of Zhang Chen in the blink of an eye. He met Zhao Weiguo's gaze with a cold face. She gave the latter a more direct feeling that fierce aura was no less than that of this leader who had fought on the battlefield for many years and dealt with death. Even feel better. Su Zheng didn't want to make the first meeting between the two parties so bad. If possible, they hoped to have more cooperation with Zhang Chen in the future, and it would be best if they could accept Zhang Chen into the Dragon Science Institute. In this way, everyone will be happier. Thinking of this, he hurried forward and walked between the two sides. He raised his hand and explained, "It's a misunderstanding. Don't act rashly. Calm down. Calm down." Zhang Chen reached out and pushed down 01's arm that was blocking his body. He walked up to 01 and frowned as he looked at the radiant middle-aged man standing in front of him. Looks too familiar, looks too familiar. Directly overlapping with a certain face in memory. Zhang Chen asked tentatively, "Are you, the Dean of Long Academy? Mr. Su Zheng?" God knows how excited Zhang Chen was when he said this. Before inheriting this technology company and accepting his parents' last wish, he had always wanted to join Dragon Science Institute. Among the 3 armies of Dragon Country, Zhang Chen knows the most about it must be the relevant information of the Dragon Science Academy. So let alone Su Zheng, the Dean of Long Academy, even a guard of Long Academy, at this moment, just stood in front of him. He can basically call out all of them by name. On the other hand, the reason why Su Zheng stood up was that he wanted to stabilize the emotions of both parties, so that it would be convenient for him to bring up the matter of cooperation with Zhang Chen in the future. As for the second point, it is also very important. He hoped that Long Academy and the military region stationed in Pengcheng could gain points from Zhang Chen and leave a good impression. Therefore, he was undoubtedly very shocked that Zhang Chen could say his name at once. His whole face was excited. You know me." Zhang Chen had no idea. In Su Zheng's opinion, this was all due to his persistence in sending private messages to Zhang Chen. After being stunned for a few seconds, Su Zheng finally remembered Zhao Weiguo who was standing behind him. He quickly pulled the other person in front of Zhang Chen. He began to introduce, "This is Zhao Weiguo, the head of the Information Security Section of our Pengcheng military region." Zhang Chen nodded, controlling his excitement. "I know him, 01. Go and prepare some tea and entertain Dean Su and Chief Zhao." In the eyes of outsiders, 01 is a completely normal person, but only Zhang Chen knows her true identity. Zhang Chen raised his hand generously and led the two to the sofa. The order form on Xianyu that had been printed out not long ago was thrown onto the desk by Zhang Chen. The most urgent task now is to establish good relations with the people of Long Academy. Of course, the arrival of Zhao Weiguo, the head of the Information Security Section of the Pengcheng military region, obviously he didn't expect it. "Please take a seat, both of you. I spent more than 10 minutes in this company." They were talking to Zhang Chen using official jargon. However, Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo had been there for such a long time that they had already figured it out. This is nominally a technology company. But in fact, this company has only one employee and one boss. Moreover, during the conversation, both sides seemed to have tacitly avoided the topic of rockets. The content of the conversation was dull and boring. It can be imagined that they came here this time with a very clear purpose. But I didn't mention it, Zhao Weiguo was very anxious because they would soon be confronting the Empire. We can't lose to their daily life. But even though Zhao Weiguo tried to signal Su Zheng with his eyes again and again, the latter acted as if he didn't see anything. Finally, he couldn't help himself. Standing up, "Mr. Zhang Chen, in order to save both of our time, I will tell you the truth here. This time we came here for 2 main reasons. First, I want to confirm with you whether the rocket launched in the past 2 days was made by you. The second question is it possible for us to work together?" Hearing this, Zhang Chen leaned back on the sofa. There was a shrewd look in his eyes. Sure enough, they were interested in the liquid nitrogen methane rocket modified by the Yanhuang technology system. His slender fingers began to tap rhythmically on the side of the sofa. His face showed no joy or anger, and there was no discernible change in expression. On the basis of this question, Zhang Chen had no intention of hiding anything from them. Instead, he smiled calmly. "Yes, I did develop that rocket. I wonder if it has caused you any unnecessary trouble. If this is the case, I will definitely cooperate with you to solve it." He has been in seclusion for the past 2 days, and he really has no idea what exactly happened outside. Just seeing this, Su Zheng hurriedly waved his hands. No, it didn't cause us any big trouble. It just melted a dozen foreign missiles hiss." Although Zhang Chen knew that the rocket had definitely been launched, he obviously did not expect that it would cause such serious losses to foreign countries. Scratching his head awkwardly, "I'm so sorry, I didn't expect this to happen. By the way, have you chosen a location for rocket recovery? Although I have set up a recyclable control command, I haven't set a specific landing location yet. I can't lose control after it lands." Zhao Weiguo nodded when he heard this. Both eyes lit up. "That's right, if that's the case, I can think of a good place." Chapter 21. It was the first time that Su Zheng saw Zhao Weiguo so excited. However, with the previous discussion, he now knew what his old friend was thinking. Zhang Chen saw that the 2 men looked friendly and made a proposal to himself. I couldn't help but cough lightly. After sorting out his thoughts, he responded in an orderly manner. "I wonder what a good spot is? If possible, I can modify the parameters now and let the rocket land directly there." Once these words came out, Zhao Weiguo and Su Zheng couldn't help but have a hint of surprise flash across their eyes. "Are you serious about what you say?" Generally speaking, during the process of developing a rocket, researchers will set up all the programs in a unified manner. Especially after the rocket launch, not to mention the opportunity to change one of the programs. How could they not be surprised? The Information Security Division's site at the Pengcheng military region is large enough, so you can park there without worry. When Zhao Weiguo said this, he did not forget to stretch out his hand, clench his fist, and pat his chest hard. Certainly, he had selfish motives in what he said. A few days later, he will lead the soldiers of the military zone to participate in a competition against the Imperial technology. The location is Taijutsu. On Dragon Country's territory, at our doorstep, there is no possibility of losing, and no possibility of losing is allowed. If the rockets are parked in the military area, it will be more convenient for them to prepare before departure. After hearing this, Zhang Chen did not agree directly at first. Instead, he turned his gaze to Su Zheng on the other side. The latter nodded slightly, with no displeasure on his face. I can't help but have some estimates in my mind. It seems that the two of them must have discussed it beforehand. If that's the case, I guess Teacher Lu must have reached some kind of agreement with them. If that's the case, then we'll make it this way. Understanding their considerations, Zhang Chen nodded, signaling them to relax. Then he started walking towards his small warehouse. At that time, after the circular robot made the rocket, the related control instruments and equipment were also there. Although Zhang Chen's operation is not as sophisticated as that of the Yanhuang technology system. But when it comes to scientific research, he is just as good at it. Moreover, as long as he is willing, he can shift his energy from company operations to research. It's not the pinnacle, but it's basically the same. Seeing this, the two exchanged glances and hurriedly followed. Open the door and enter the small storeroom. The latest thing that has come into their sight is a machine tool that looks nothing special and has a simple and crude functional structure. After that, there are various equipments covered with dust. Reminiscent of the high-tech liquid nitrogen methane rocket, to say that it came from such a simple warehouse. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it even if you beat them to death. Perhaps he noticed the awkwardness of the two people. Zhang Chen also looked around his warehouse. It's still okay now. If they had arrived a few minutes earlier, they would have seen the most messy scene in the warehouse. He raised his hand and scratched his head, then smiled awkwardly. This is our company's research room and warehouse. Please feel free to sit down and don't be disgusted. After saying that, Zhang Chen walked towards the control position on his own. Open the computer. The edge of the computer began to flash circles of glittering fluorescent blue. As Zhang Chen's fingers quickly fell on the keyboard, the fluorescent blue circle began to change constantly. Zhao Weiguo and the other person standing by couldn't help but be shocked. Among them, Su Zheng felt even more deeply touched. Even when he was inspecting the work in the Dragon Science Institute, he had never seen any staff member in the Dragon Science Institute whose manipulation skills were as proficient as Zhang Chen's. I couldn't help but think, such a simple machine tool can be used to such an extent by him. If he were given a more sophisticated machine tool, would the quality of his rockets be further improved? Thinking of this, Su Zheng's face was filled with shock. His determination to win over Zhang Chen became even stronger. The final code is completed. Zhang Chen leaned back, silently waiting for the result of the rocket landing. The rocket recovery order has been modified. Yanhuang Technology is planning the best return route for you. Please wait. Zhang Chen received a voice prompt. His eyebrows were slightly raised, but there was no big reaction on his face. Fold your hands behind your head. His mouth moved slightly. 10, 9, 8. In the small warehouse, apart from the countdown whispered by Zhang Chen, it was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Even my breathing became cautious. I was afraid that my breath would disturb him. As for the military region stationed in Pengcheng at this time, Information Security Department. The officers and soldiers in charge of monitoring the airspace watched the cursor on the screen change. I couldn't help but be stunned for a few seconds, then he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He stood up excitedly and put his hands into his hair. Oh my god! This posture, are they planning to land in our military zone? The officers and soldiers rushed to the microphone in a panic. Everyone on alert, evacuate the open space and surrounding areas within 30 seconds. Everyone, pay attention. Obey orders immediately. Within 30 seconds, the numerous soldiers who were originally active in the open space of the military zone began to disperse in all directions the moment they received the order. The huge monster blocks out the sky. In an instant, the light above the open space in the military area was blocked out. Look. That's the rocket launched from Pengcheng Aerospace University. Oh my goodness. They said before that the rocket was reusable. I didn't believe it at first, ha 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 ha. With this big guy, our battle with the Empire will be almost certain to win. Residents near Pengcheng. I saw with my own eyes that the huge monster actually landed in the Pengcheng military region. They don't understand what it means to recover a rocket after it is launched. But all we know is that this big guy is a rocket. Many people began to encourage the useless Manzo to complete the bet as soon as possible. Time dragged on for a long time. Internet users gradually lost their original patience. Among them, some netizens who are good at computers also began to display their talents. Finally, I don't know how much time has passed. When Wansan goes online again, I saw some basic information about myself in the private message. There is also a sentence below. If you want to continue to hang out on the internet, get out here and fulfill your bet. You also know how hot the topic of rockets is right now. Just because I have good intentions doesn't mean others do the same. Wansan's hands trembled. Yes, now that the internet is well developed, anyone with a mouth can dominate the world in this cyberspace. But in this field, the soft tongue is the most powerful and lethal weapon. Wansan gritted his teeth and said, damn it. Drinking urine while standing upside down is better than being cyberbullied. Didn't I drink a boy's urine by mistake when I was a kid? Damn it, I'm going all out. Chapter 22. Now that he had made up his mind, Wan San stood up immediately. Pick up your phone again, log into the page, and post an announcement. Tonight at 8 o'clock, number live broadcast number handstand and drink urine. As soon as this topic came out, the internet exploded. Damn it. The loser Manzo is serious. I don't care about anything else, I just like to watch the fun. Tonight, I'm going to follow you. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen sent Lu Xia back to school. The principal and other leaders who were waiting at the door saw the rocket slowly descending. In such excitement, old Chen even forgot that he had a leg injury and rushed over. Look, Lao Wang. Look at that rocket. It's really recovered. At this moment, the only thing in old Chen's eyes was the rocket, and he immediately burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. Okay. Okay. Everyone present was stunned when they saw this scene, their faces flushed and they were extremely excited. Especially when he thought about Longwo getting this rocket, Mr. Wang couldn't help but feel a little sad. Okay, if the dean can convince Mr. Zhang, that would be even better. It's like adding wings to a tiger. As if he had thought of something, he turned around suddenly. Principal Zhang, we have important things to do, so we won't stay any longer. Without waiting for any polite words, Mr. Wang caught up with Mr. Chen who was walking in front of him. As for the remaining school leaders, he also looked at the rocket in astonishment. The department head, who was familiar with Longwo's aerospace history, couldn't help but ask Lu Xia, Teacher Lu, the rocket model you prepared, oh no, the rocket, can it be recovered? Once these words came out, the people around immediately turned their attention to Lu Xia. Surprise, curiosity. Only Wang Qiqui sneered. Recycling? Let alone Dragon Country, even if you look at the whole world, have you ever heard of a recyclable rocket? I think it's possible that Mr. Lu and that kind of people are deliberately making things mysterious and bought 2 rockets from the beginning. Lu Xia frowned slightly and her face darkened. After figuring it out, he laughed in relief. Yeah, why should I bother with you? People with dirty hearts see the world as dirty. Suddenly, she suddenly changed her tone and put a smile on her face again. Dear leaders, principal, this is the rocket I launched at that time. Through these eyes, Lu Xia could see that these leaders wanted her to continue speaking. However, if it is really a model, it would be fine to just talk about it. But things are different now. After being appraised by the state, we also experienced the scenes in the aerospace laboratory of Long Institute. Now about this rocket thing, Lu Xia believed that it would not take long for the news to be automatically classified as national level. After Long Institute obtained Zhang Chen's technical license, the relevant information of this rocket will be completely blocked and controlled. As an insider, she will naturally become the object of special care. In this situation, I must not cause trouble for myself or the Lu family. Then he began to explain, at Long College, I have signed a confidentiality agreement with the leaders, so I believe that you, the principal, can understand me, right? When the school leaders, including Zhang Tianfeng, heard this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but crack a little. But in the end, I managed to control it. Of course, Teacher Lu has prepared very thoroughly for this practical class. He has worked very hard. At the teaching evaluation meeting, I will also ask teachers from all colleges to use this as an example. Lu Xia smiled when she heard this. It seems that this evaluation has been saved. She nodded, her face full of joy. That's because the leadership team of our Pengcheng Aerospace University is great. Xia still has a lot to learn from the seniors in the academy. Once these words came out, many leaders at the scene were overjoyed. Before leaving, he looked at her twice with satisfaction. Only Wang Qiqui was present. She was so angry that her cheeks turned green. When she left, she passed by Lu Xia and couldn't help stomping her feet. Just wait for me. I don't believe you don't have any other evidence. Lu Xia shook her head at her leaving back and whispered 2 words. Idiot. The other side. In an office building in the northern district of Pengcheng. Zhang Chen stretched and stood up. You two, the rocket has now landed smoothly at the location you provided. After saying that, Zhang Chen stretched out his hand and tapped the computer screen a few times. Then he turned the screen around to face Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo. The two saw that the location where the red mark was flashing was exactly the location of the Pengcheng military region. Zhao Weiguo couldn't help laughing, and the heavy stone in his heart slowly fell down at this moment. That's great. That's really great. He rushed to Zhang Chen in one leap. Even Su Zheng beside him was not prepared at all. I just felt a dark shadow suddenly jump out from beside me. When Zhao Weiguo realized what was happening, he had already held Zhang Chen's hand. A strong squeeze. Comrade Zhang Chen. Thank you so much. You have helped our Pengcheng military region a lot. You've helped Longwo a lot. Zhang Chen, who was closest to him, felt the most deeply. As he saw the leader, his eyes began to turn red and sparkling. But for some reason, the tears only stayed in the eye sockets. Zhang Chen pulled the corner of his mouth. At this moment, I felt that my hands were about to be broken. Su Zheng, who was standing not far away, saw the embarrassment on Zhang Chen's face. He coughed twice. Commander Zhao, we may be excited, but please don't scare our young comrade Zhang Chen. Oh. Yes, yes, yes. Look at me. I really overlooked this point in my impulse. Zhao Weiguo let go of his hand and took 2 steps back, smiling a little embarrassedly. Boss Zhang, someone is looking for us outside. They said they are from Long Institute. Pengcheng Aerospace University is only 2 miles away from his studio, so it doesn't take much time to get there even if he walks. 01's voice came from deep inside Zhang Chen's mind. He looked up at Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo. You two, I have changed the location according to your request. If you have anything else to say, let's go outside and talk. After all, my small warehouse. As they listened, they looked around the small warehouse again. Nodded, there is indeed room for improvement. The conditions here are so harsh. If Zhang Chen can be persuaded to join the Dragon Academy, then this small warehouse must be renovated. Okay. It just so happens that we have something else we want to discuss with you, Comrade Zhang Chen. Zhao Weiguo nodded silently. His problem has been solved, and now it is natural to do our best to help Long Academy get this scientific and technological genius. I believe that Zhang Chen's joining it will definitely take Dragon Country's future technological development to a higher level. Once out of the warehouse, Su Zheng was stunned. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were sitting in their original seats drinking tea. Chapter 23. Mr. Chen? Mr. Wang? How did you two find this place? Su Zheng was obviously a little shocked by the arrival of the two people. After all, according to his own impression, he had never told them the location of Zhang Chen's company. Now we have arrived at Zhang Chen's company. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen obviously forgot what Su Zheng said. A pair of eyes closely followed the young people beside Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo. His eyes became more and more enthusiastic. This should be Mr. Zhang, the man who developed the liquid nitrogen methane rocket. Hello, I'm Wang Zhong from the Long Institute. You can also call me Mr. Wang. Chen Yang from Long Institute. You can call me Mr. Chen. After Zhang Chen shook hands with the two men, he gestured for Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo to take a seat. He pulled over an office chair and sat respectfully in front of the four people. So, if I had chosen to enter the Dragon Academy, then the people in front of him will all be his superiors and seniors. 1 hour, the air in the office suddenly became quiet. You look at me, I look at you, everyone stared at each other, and no one spoke first. The atmosphere was so awkward. This made Zhang Chen, the owner of the office, a little bit at a loss. After all, he is just a 26-year-old young man who just graduated. If he didn't have the system to back him up, where would there be such an opportunity to come into contact with people at the level of the head of the Longguo military region, the president of the Long Academy, and senior consultants? She pursed her lips and spoke first. If you have anything else to say, just tell me. If you need me to do anything, I will do my best. Zhang Chen's words hit the nail on the head for several people. Su Zheng thought for a moment before deciding to speak. I heard that Mr. Liu only spent one night to place the order for the liquid nitrogen methane rocket he bought from you. Zhang Chen nodded. After all, this was true. Indeed, his dozens of circular robots were completed in one night. For those who are engaged in scientific research, hearing about it is one thing, but seeing it with your own eyes and hearing it with your own ears is another thing entirely. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen, both senior scientific research leaders at Long Institute, could not help but gasp when they heard this. Then, is it inconvenient to ask, how much did you spend in total? This question is undoubtedly the most concerned and important one for everyone present. After all, leaving aside the satellite, developing a liquid nitrogen and methane rocket would cost at least tens of billions of dollars to barely support it. So, if the cost is higher than this, the current level of development and economic level of their Long Institute is indeed beyond their reach. Several people focused their attention on Zhang Chen at the same time. Hold your breath and wait for the answer. Zhang Chen had no intention of fooling them and was seriously calculating his expenses. Looking at Zhang Chen who was counting on his fingers and thinking, the others quieted down. A long time, he slowly responded, in order to catch up with the work, I ate 2 meals of instant noodles. The travel expenses are not included. The battery car can only be counted as the electricity fee. The materials I used for the 60-meter-high rocket. All in all, it's only about 100,000. After all, most of the materials are obtained through exchange in the Yanhuang technology system. It doesn't need to cost him too much money at all. If you look into it carefully, the water content of more than 100,000 yuan is quite large. Only, as soon as he said this, Wang and Chen stood up in a daze, their mouths opening and closing, and they clearly felt that their brains were lacking oxygen. Insufficient blood supply, then his eyes rolled back and he fell onto the sofa behind him. Thanks to Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo's quick response, without hesitation, he pinched the two men's philtrum. Ha! The two of them took a deep breath and woke up. His eyes widened and he reached out to pull Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo apart. He stared blankly in the direction of Zhang Chen. You are talking nonsense, right? You must be talking nonsense. How is it possible that a liquid nitrogen methane rocket can be built with such a low investment? And it's a 60-meter tall rocket with its own 8K microimage satellite. If that's the case, the two old guys wouldn't believe it even if you beat them to death. Being looked at by these 4 people in front of me, I felt a little scared. But Zhang Chen always felt that he shouldn't lie. He frowned, stretched out his bent index finger, and tentatively asked, then, about 90,000. It would have been better if I hadn't said this, but as soon as I finished speaking, the two men fainted again. The second awakening was more difficult, so Zhang Chen used the wind oil prepared in the drawer. The two of them woke up from their trance. Su Zheng and Zhao Weiguo helped the two of them up again and leaned them against the sofa. He was still breathing heavily. His chest was also heaving violently. But the look he gave Zhang Chen at this moment was as if he was looking at a monster. From time to time, he would secretly reach out and pinch his thigh. The clear pain is transmitted to the brain. It took them quite some time to digest the news. Genius. This is simply a super genius. We must strive for it. Hesitation for even half a second is disrespectful to genius. Mr. Wang is a fast-talking man, but he can't hide anything in his heart. After looking at Su Zheng, he no longer cared about whether he was the dean or not. I couldn't help myself and said directly, it's like this. Liquid nitrogen and methane rockets are currently only a theoretical project in our long country. Now that you have developed it. Besides, the effect is obvious to all, so I was thinking, are you willing to sell the liquid nitrogen methane rocket technology to our Long Institute? Of course, no matter what conditions you raise, we will satisfy you. To be honest, even though Mr. Wang is usually such a decisive person, after saying these words, he didn't think his chances of winning were high. He even clenched his fists nervously, fearing that the other party would directly reject his invitation the next second. However, imagination is rich, but reality is cruel. When Zhang Chen on the opposite side heard that they wanted to buy the liquid nitrogen methane rocket technology, his face turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. Without even a moment's hesitation, he responded directly, sorry, I refuse. Faced with Zhang Chen's tough and unconditional rejection, several people panicked. No one was quite sure what to do. The conditions were just random suggestions, but they were not something that Long Academy could easily promise. For anyone who heard this, it was definitely a rare opportunity. Comrade Zhang Chen, you have to think carefully. The promise of the Dragon Academy is worth a fortune. As long as you are willing to sell the liquid nitrogen and methane rocket technology. That's enough. Stop talking. Before Zhao Weiguo could finish his words, Zhang Chen raised his hand to stop him. Chapter 24. Why? Facing Zhang Chen's straightforward yet decisive questioning, Mr. Wang asked this almost subconsciously. No reason. Hearing this, several people were obviously stunned. Zhao Weiguo narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the boy in front of him again. I couldn't help but secretly think, this kid, although he has some achievements, but now he is a little too arrogant. Coupled with the anger on Zhang Chen's face, the people in front of him were instantly silent. Looked at each other. Zhang Chen took a deep breath, finally calmed himself down, and slowly stood up. I will not sell the manufacturing technology of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. If this is all you want to tell me, then I think there is no need for us to discuss this further. Zhang Chen spoke calmly, no one knows how disappointed he is with these people now. Dragon Country is full of talented people, high-paying skills will always be available, it's just a matter of time. In particular, he now has a system that can transform existing technological equipment into high-tech. Yanhuang Technology Inventor System. If the amount of technology points is sufficient, promoting the Dragon Kingdom's technology will not be just a dream. Zhao Weiguo and others saw Zhang Chen's resolute back. Mouth opened, Wang Lao and the others were about to continue talking. Zhao Weiguo couldn't help but speak, lowering his voice to comfort him. Let's stop here for today. Mr. Zhang doesn't seem to be in a very good mood right now. After saying this, Su Zheng rolled his eyes at him silently. I thought to myself. You've already dealt with all your problems, and now you don't care about us? Okay. You are indeed an old fox. Let me see if I can still help you in the future. Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen. Su Zheng raised his chin towards the two of them. He gestured in the direction of the door. He was walking at the back, and it could be said that he looked back every few steps. After thinking for a while, I don't know what he was thinking about, but heavy breathing came from his nose. With a determined look in his eyes, he turned around and walked towards Zhang Chen's position. As for Zhang Chen, he was sulking at the moment, and even though he knew someone was coming back behind him, he had no intention of turning around. But through the glass in front of me, he did see the man's figure, although it was blurry but still recognizable. Dean, may I ask if there is anything else you haven't finished explaining? There was an obvious sense of alienation in Zhang Chen's indifferent voice. Su Zheng couldn't help but frown slightly. He no longer had the same surprise he had when he first learned of their identities. But Su Zhenjai couldn't figure out why. Comrade Zhang Chen, Mr. Wang seems to be very direct in his words, so don't mind. We originally wanted to invite you to join the core research team at the Dragon Science Institute headquarters, where you will have the best resources and the best research environment. The core research team of Long Institute headquarters? I have to say, when Su Zheng mentioned this, Zhang Chen, who was originally angry, was already somewhat moved. If entering the Long Institute after graduating from university and becoming a member of the Long Institute was his goal throughout his university years, joining the core research team at the Long Institute headquarters is the dream he has been pursuing throughout his life. Of course, these were all things he pursued before he had a system, before his parents were there, and before the family technology company was operating normally. But on second thought, what he needs now is no longer the best resources or environment. After having the system, he only needs to consider technology points, and other things are completely out of his consideration. If he really agreed to join the core research team at the Dragon Science Institute headquarters, by then, without any R&D process, you can come up with a complete scientific research product out of thin air. In addition, all scientific research projects within the Long Institute must be approved and reported before they can obtain the corresponding funds for research. With those, he couldn't possibly communicate with high technology. Therefore, for him now, there is no need to hesitate to refuse. And he also knew that in this life, he would enter the Dragon Academy and become a member of it. This will never happen. I thought after saying this, the other party should leave. But the voice behind me continued to linger in my ears. If it's convenient for you, I would like to ask you to build another rocket of the same kind. It's just that now things have turned out like this. Su Zheng shook his head and sighed helplessly. I don't know how many times I have scolded Mr. Wang in my heart. This straightforward person has been around for so many years, and he always hits a brick wall when talking to anyone. There has never been an exception. It seems that next time I come to see Zhang Chen, I must not bring him with me. Thinking of this, Su Zheng had already made plans in his mind. As for Mr. Wang, who had already stepped onto the military vehicle, he couldn't help but sneeze loudly. He wiped it casually and said nonchalantly, "Who is scolding me behind my back?" Zhao Weiguo and Chen Lao got on the front and rear seats respectively, and were thinking about what had just happened. No one paid any attention to him. Engine start. Just as Zhao Weiguo was about to step on the accelerator, he heard Mr. Wang anxiously say, "Hey, Chief Zhao, please don't be anxious. Our dean hasn't come up yet. Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer." After listening to Su Zheng's words, the wrinkles between Zhang Chen's brows were smoothed out a lot. He could imagine why Su Zheng wanted him to build another rocket. Apart from providing research for the staff of the Dragon Science Institute, I'm afraid I can't think of a second use for it. But what he didn't see was, after Su Zheng looked at Zhang Chen with disappointment, he turned around and prepared to leave. In his opinion, if Longguo can obtain the relevant technology of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets this time, it will definitely greatly improve the rocket-related technology and even the overall strength of Dragon Country. But what made them think again was that Zhang Chen, such a top scientific research genius, obviously did not have such an intention. Even so, this was just what he thought in his heart. After all, he had no way and no right to blame others. Even in the days to come, whether it is their Long Academy or the military region, they should put more energy and attention on Zhang Chen's technology company, and establish good relations with it. Perhaps, Longguo will have to do some business under his control in the future. Comrade Zhang Chen, this is what the Dragon Science Institute really means. As for whether to build the rocket or not, we will not force you. I just don't know if I will encounter difficulties in this area in the future. Can I ask you for advice? With the previous lessons, now Su Zheng couldn't guarantee what attitude Zhang Chen would take. I'm also unsure. Wait a moment, there was no response behind him. Su Zheng shook his head and walked towards the door in complete disappointment. The rocket will be delivered to the Dragon Science Institute tomorrow. You just need to wait to receive it. Chapter 25. Just as Su Zheng put his hand on the door handle, he heard these words coming from behind him. He was a little stunned, his body stiffened, and he turned around slowly. The darkness in his eyes was gradually replaced by light, but before he could feel happy, the voice continued to come from behind him. But before that, you need to go through the relevant order process on Xianyu. After all, only in this way can I exchange corresponding technology points with the Yanhuang Scientific Research Scientist System. And most importantly, his technology company is still in its infancy. The necessary funds and connections do not even have the most basic guarantees. He also needs to do business and survive. He even wants to fulfill his father's last wish to develop the technology to migrate to the moon. Thinking of this, Zhang Chen slowly turned around. His expression eased, and he no longer spoke with the same arrogance as before. Of course, if you want to buy in bulk, I can accept it. My company may be small, but it has everything. When the time comes, I will definitely sell it to you at the factory price. Before Su Zheng could even get rid of the smile on his face, after hearing these words, he slowly froze. It would have been fine if he hadn't said this, but now, Zhang Chen's utilitarian image has taken root firmly in his mind. At this moment, Su Zheng's mood was so complicated that it was hard to describe. Even a little unhappy. No wonder he agreed to build another rocket so readily just now, it turned out that he was waiting for him here. I wanted to say no directly. But Zhang Chen's skills are there. There was no reason for him to refuse at all. At this moment, he was really angry and hateful. I guess for Zhang Chen at this moment, it really fits the saying, I just like the way you look at me with dislike, but can't get rid of me. However, just when he was feeling extremely angry, Zhang Chen smiled in front of him again. Of course, I will also inform the researchers at the Dragon Science Institute of any technical problems without reservation. You can rest assured about this, Dean. It has to be said that Zhang Chen's 2 consecutive actions left Su Zheng speechless. Su Zheng cursed him in his heart, but he had only said half of it. This kid actually did this to himself again. 1 hour, Su Zheng frowned, a little stunned. What do you mean by that? Zhang Chen smiled and said, of course it means literally. Dean, you will understand. The sunlight outside shone through the French windows onto Zhang Chen. Inexplicably, it gave Su Zheng a feeling of being a saint in a bright and beautiful scene. He moved his mouth and asked tentatively, then why didn't you agree to sell the rocket technology to us? Now he actually agreed to pass it on to the staff of Long Academy. About rocket research technology. This is totally different. Zhang Chen already had his own ideas about this. Now that Su Zheng asked, he didn't have to hide it. Because no matter now or in the future, he will only implement his own ideas. No one can change it. Su Zheng's eyes were fixed on Zhang Chen, and he even forgot that he was leaving. But because I was eager to know his answer, I forgot what I was doing. I saw, Zhang Chen walked back to the sofa slowly. Slowly sat down. How can it be the same? If I want to sell my technology, anyone can do it, not necessarily you. No matter how high the price I offer, someone will buy it. So I am unwilling to agree to Mr. Wang's request. In a trance, looking at Zhang Chen in front of him, Su Zheng seemed to understand him a little. But this thought was so fleeting that he didn't catch it. In his mind he recalled the vast amount of knowledge he had gained from the system at that time. That is all about the technology of liquid nitrogen methane rockets, from parts, materials to technical processing. I believe that any one of these items alone would be enough to shock the whole world. However, with the current level of technology, without his guidance, these technologies in the hands of professionals will only be empty frameworks that cannot be implemented. So it's not that Zhang Chen is arrogant. Without my explanation, they would not be able to easily absorb and accept some of the technologies of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. Looking at Zhang Chen, he raised his head and sighed meaningfully. Su Zheng had nothing to say. He only knew that his brain and body were in a state of confusion. I don't even know how I finally walked out of this office building, technology company. Just when I reacted, the phone in my hand buzzed. Mr. Wang got out of the car and opened the door for him personally. He didn't hear a word that Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen said after he got in the car. There was only one sentence that echoed in his ears for a long time. As a dragon citizen, I have no right to contribute anything to my country. I am happy to do it and I don't want to be tied to money. Until I return to the Dean's office of Long Institute. Su Zheng didn't say anything more. The staff at Long Institute only knew that the Dean had been in seclusion for several days after returning from outside. He looked at the 8 big words on the wall. Strong will and wisdom, words and deeds will bear fruit. I couldn't help but smile bitterly and feel ashamed. In the end, he underestimated the patriotism and desire to serve the country of contemporary youth. He understood Zhang Chen's hidden meaning. He built rockets and was willing to explain the relevant technology to more professionals. I never thought of asking for a penny from the beginning to the end. However, it was they who, from the very beginning, tainted this negotiation with a heavy odor of money. Judging from his rejection reaction at that time, he disliked it and even hated it. Linking his scientific achievements to money is a disrespect to him and his works. Now think about it, I used to doubt and despise him. I wish I could slap myself twice right now to feel better. After thinking for a long time, he called out, "Assistant." Click. After the words fell, the office door rang. A lady in a white coat, holding a folder in her arms, rushed in. "Dean, what do you want?" "I found Zhangchen Technology Company on Xianyu and placed an order for a custom rocket." Note, Long Institute, same as mine, ah. When the assistant heard these words at first, he didn't even react. After all, the place where she is where those technological equipment are produced. It's really rare to see the Long Institute ordering rockets from other companies. I'm afraid no one will believe it if I tell them, right? However, the dean had given orders, and as an assistant, all she had to do was obey orders and get things done. Yes. 5 minutes later, 01 AFTER cleaning up the mess in the warehouse, he returned to the office and reported to Zhang Chen. "Mr. Zhang, you have a new order on Xianyu, please check it." Hearing this, Zhang Chen's eyebrows were frivolous, and he couldn't help but sigh. They started to take action so soon? Just about to open the mobile phone software. The next second, a familiar translucent page appeared in front of me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.